Right. Very good evening to all of you. So warmly welcome for the mock paper discussion on behalf of CA Sri Lanka. Right. So the first of all, so I hope that am I audible?
Yes, we can
Yes.
hear. Yes, we can
Right.
hear.
Thank you, Aruna. And so it's going to be a great evening, students, with great energy. And we are going to discuss the CL1 mock paper issued by C Sri Lanka. So 2 weeks before the examination. I hope that all of you are now ready for the examination and all of you have the a strong courage to face the examination on 29th. And also, so as a testing of that courage, and I expect all the students who have joined in live the paper discussion will properly listen the discussion that we are going to do it today. And also there is no ending time. So no ending time. So definitely it will be around more than 4 hours. So that means our paper discussion will finish in midnight after 12 o'clock. So therefore, so we'll test your courage or we'll test your preparation for the examination. So with the continuous concentration for the paper discussion that we are going to do it today. First of all, students, we should thank to CA Sri Lanka, the education division, of organizing this kind of a great initiative 2 weeks before the exam, giving a great opportunity for the students to practice in an examination environment and get realize yourself what are the weaknesses and how the stress during the examination and what are the things you could generally go wrong, and all those things would have been practically realized to you during the mock examination. So therefore, we must thank to CA Sri Lanka for organizing and also organizing this paper discussion on behalf of the students, on behalf of, by the education division. Uh, right. Okay, now students, I hope that all of you have the mock paper now, and some of you would have already attended the mock paper. Some of you would have not attended, but watching the or joining the live for the paper discussion. Right. So, and also during the discussion, students, so during these 4 hours, so what are the questions that you have with regard to the mock paper as well as, or even any other subject matters, you can ask me directly in the Zoom. So I will answer all these questions as well. Right. So let's start then. And before I start the paper, students, so a few instruction to be given with regard to the CL1 examination. So now you are going to face the next this examination on 29th of June, and basically this auditing subject is a kind of a practical subject where you need to apply your theoretical knowledge into the practical scenarios during the examination. So therefore, the preparation for the examination by practicing the exam questions are so important. And I hope that so during this 2 weeks time, you are devoting adequate time for the practice in the examination question more than the theory. So the backward approach by practicing the questions and getting back into the theory would be the perfect approach for getting ready for the examination during the next 2 weeks time. And in terms of your examination is concerned, so it's really needed at this stage for you to get practice the exam techniques in a proper manner, especially the time management, because most of the students would have realized during the mock examination paper the time is not sufficient for you to write all the question during the 3 hours time. This is one of the biggest, right, one of the biggest issue that the most of the students have, and they are not in a position to write the even up to 80 marks or more than 80 marks. So due to the lack of organizing and the practicing and the lack of time management skill, that is going to be a killing factor if you don't write the 90 plus marks during the final examination. The chance of getting through is less, students, because it's in auditing being a practical subject, sometimes you will not be able to produce the most appropriate answer, and thereby you will not be able to get the maximum marks. So that means, let's say the marks allocation is 10, so it's not possible even for a brilliant case to go for 10 marks. The problem may be the practical application judgments conclusions are different. So now I'm being a practitioner chartered accountant. the certain decision that I make, or sometime another practicing chartered accountant, for the same case, he will take slightly different decision. So therefore, so that kind of case scenario coming in the examination, sometime you will not be able to reach into that level. So therefore, each and every question, there is a 20% normal loss. We learned in the management accounting, normal loss, abnormal loss. So there's a 20% normal loss. So then, so in order to catch up that 20% normal loss, you have to write the 90 plus marks. If not, the auditing paper, it's going to be challenging for you to get the 50 marks at the final examination. So therefore, the most important factor is the time management techniques, right? And also, next thing is the concentrated mind. Sometimes most of you will be under stress during the 3 hours time. That stress will be another killing factor where your all thoughts and all your thinking ability, judgment, conclusions, all cannot be made when you are under stress. So therefore, the stress, you have to get out from the stress. How you can get out from the stress is by practicing more and more questions and keeping the confidence during the next 2 weeks time on what you have done. So if you have not done certain areas now during the next 2 weeks time, you can focus, but you have to have a confidence on what you have done, and based on the knowledge that you have gathered and tailor-made that knowledge into the scenario that are given in the examination, and then produce the most appropriate high quality answer. So therefore, the second examination techniques will be so you have to be always the stressless environment, and you have to manage the stress. Concentration has to be there during the examination. So if not, you will not be able to score. Even for sometimes small questions, sometimes you will not be able to score. The next thing, students, sometime the third thing is the too much of writing. The auditing is a cut and write. So if the examiner asks, okay, this is the question, this is the answer, we are not going to elaborate and write the stories to the examiner. So it's cut and write. Right? You give a straightforward answer. So this is how it should come. That's all. And no rewriting of the question, no rewriting the question, no rewriting of the reproducing the content given in the question. So nothing like that. So straightforward. Right? Too much writing also will kill in the time again, and it will reduce your number of marks that is being attended during the examination. Right? And also the fourth thing, students, right? What most important is, don't try to be perfect. Don't try to be perfect in answering. If you try to be perfect, what will happen? So there is a chance of going wrong, and you won't have the time to write everything. The perfect in the sense, some students say, for an example, assurance services, they will think too much into the scenarios and all the knowledge that you have gathered during the last few months, and you will try to analyze all those during the 3 hours. Finally, you will come to a wrong conclusion. So therefore, so if you have a 15 minutes for the question, within plus 5 minutes, you have to think and make the decision and write the justification and move forward. Right? I'm telling these things by experience, how the students can generally go wrong. And the next thing, student, would be you are not writing what examiner is asking, but you write what you know. Examiner doesn't need what you know. Examiner need an answer for the question that is asked by the examiner. That is where the action verb, the number of marks are going to be important. So therefore, I just told you the few things at the beginning, right? Beginning. And while we are discussing the questions, we will see other techniques that need to be attended. And what most important factor is during the next 2 weeks time, you have to keep the concentration and study the focus areas, and which are highly vulnerable for the examination through the questions, right? That's kind of the starting remark that I want to give you. Right. So I can see the number in the webinar now. So I believe that the same number, keeping the 20% normal loss, 80% will remain till the end of the paper discussion, maybe probably after midnight. So that means we will finish this session, not today, tomorrow morning. Right. So let's start the discussion now. So this is the mock paper. I hope that you can see the screen. I hope that you can see the screen. Can you drop a message, please?
You can see.
Yes, thank you, Aruna. Right. So students, now, so this paper is concerned, I want to tell you that, I mean, the final examination paper, and the mock paper, there can be slight differences with the examination questions in the final paper and the mock paper. So this paper is set for the purpose of giving you a opportunity for you to practice the questions in examination environment, and therefore you don't expect a similar kind of a paper on 29th. So you know the past papers, you know the pattern of the past papers, how it goes. So therefore, just because of you are getting 50 marks here, or just because of you are getting 30 marks, it doesn't mean that you will get the same number of marks during the final examination. The examination pattern of the final examination is different with compared to the mock paper, but conceptualize the content wise more or less same. So therefore, there can be gaps that when you see the final paper and the mock paper, but understand the purpose of the mock paper is to give you an opportunity or a platform for you to practice in the final examination environment, and also to give you a support. So in terms of the attending examination question, and this is again I'm telling. So this is a great initiative done by CS Sri Lanka, especially the education division. So Mr. Aruna also here. So he has done a lot of hard work actually in terms of organizing this webinar series, and also coordinating with students. They're sending links. So much of work behind the mock paper discussion, and we should thankful to him as well for facilitating on behalf of the students. Right now, students. So as far as this examination paper is concerned, what most important thing that you need to remember is the time management. So time management is so important. So therefore, the examination question selection should be done it properly. And starting point of the examination paper, you have to have the confidence, you have to have a trust on you. So therefore, at the starting point of the examination paper on 29, take the paper. And if you are attending physical examination, so you keep some positive motivation, right? Positive motivation at the time of the starting. So I used to write something when I was doing the examination. So I'll write some statement here by pen. I will somehow pass. I will somehow. Those days I put that I will somehow write the full. I will somehow write the full paper, right? Kind of a positive motivation I kept into my mind. So that you can do, but what I intended to tell students. So you have to have a strong mindset at the beginning of the paper to ensure that you have the peaceful concentration throughout the 3 hours, right? So thereafter, students, now when you are selecting the questions, it's very crucial. You have 3 sections, so 10 multiple choice questions, short scenarios 4, and the long scenarios 2. And my advice is, generally I don't advise students to start with MCQ, but there are some students who prefer to do that. Okay, if you like it, you can do that, no problem. But because sometimes MCQ question, if you look at the last 3 exams, the MCQ questions are not that difficult. But before 2023, it was the extremely difficult MCQ questions. So therefore, we don't know what would be the situation in your examination. Depending on that case, you can decide. So my preference probably would be to select 1 short scenario or 2 short scenarios and get a confidence, and then go to the 1 large case scenarios, and then finally do balance short scenarios and come into the last one of the long scenarios at the last 1 hour. Because what I intended, student, the first 1 hour, first 1.5 hour, you have to do the 1 long scenario questions, 20 marks, and then the last 1.5 hour, you can do another long scenario question. Don't take that both together. It will make you stress, because you have a lot of things to read, and there are a lot of things for you to analyze in the long scenario questions. So therefore, it does not recommend, right, for you to write both the questions together. But MCQ, you can select at any time that you want to do, but any time that you like it, you can park accordingly, right? So that's the selection. Then students, another important point is, so say you have selected the section 1 to be done as a press question. So then you have to put the timing. Say 9 o'clock you start. So the first, so each mark you can allocate 1.5. So 1.5 minutes. So that means 10 mark mean you have 15 minutes. If you have a 20 marks mean, right, you have a 30 minutes, right? So that means MCQ questions, you have 30 minutes if you are selecting as number one question. And then you have to put the timing here, 9:30. So you have to put the ending time in front of the question at any cost, right? At any cost, you can't go beyond the time allocated. If you just say 30 minutes, it won't feel you when you are writing. So let's say 9:30, I am finishing this question at the exam. Say next question I'm selecting is say question number 3. Then that has a 10 marks, so that means 15 minutes. So then I have to put the time in 9:45, right? You see the strategy that I'm telling. So then if I'm going to the large case scenario number 6, let's say. So then 9:45 and there's a 20 marks. So then 10:15 only I'll be finishing, right? So the way you have organized, say, let's say at the last question, question number 7, say that you are attending. So if you calculate properly, you will have to finish at 11:30. You have a half an hour time to fill the gaps. If you don't finish some part of the examination question, what you have to do is you have to keep the space and go. And when you are writing, say part question number 2 is selected, A, B, C, there are 3 sections. A and B you have written. C, you don't know how to write it. You keep the space and go to the next page and start with the new questions, right? This half an hour is a rest. The final half an hour is kept for you to fill the gap, right? Fill the gap in a situation where, right, to fill the gap in a situation where you have missed to write, or some certain areas you don't know, or certain thing that you don't get an answer. So that kind of time is not there. For that kind of purposes, you can keep the timing for that, right? So that's the systematic learning. So you have to have systematic learning and a systematic approach. So now we saw the start and all 3 sections, how the questions are being selected. And then now we see the time allocation to be done how. And now we will start with the paper discussion, right? Students, now so I'm not going to see the instruction, right? Because this is a closed book examination that you are anyway aware. Those instructions, I don't have to read it because you are well aware, right? So in the paper discussion, students, I will go through the from the question number 1 to 7 in a order. But when you are attending it during the examination, it doesn't really need for you to go in that order, right? Okay, now students, the question number 1, the MCQ question, the golden rules. You all would have seen my previous paper discussion at C Sri Lanka and also the webinars, which I have highlighted. One of the examination technique, right? If you attend in the physical examination, you have to have this. What is this? Highlighter must be there, right? Without highlighter, you can't go to the auditing paper discussion. Is very crucial because there is a possibility, tendency that you will miss the certain points given by the examiner. So therefore, the highlighter is needed, right? After getting the highlighter, so when you attend the MCQ question, there are 2 golden rules, right? There are 2 golden rules which you have to be remember. So number 1 is elimination theory. What is that elimination theory? When the MCQ questions are difficult, you will not be able to identify the most accurate answer. So what would be the best thing is you can eliminate the wrong 2 answers, then coming into the correct answer. It doesn't really require the elimination theory to be applied for all the questions. Some questions you can easily approach, but some questions not easily to be approached, right? So therefore, elimination theory need to be done, need to be applied. And also sometimes remember the immediate answer that comes to your mind may not be the correct answer. Most of the cases, the paper setter is set the question paper. Answers are organized in a way that you would go wrong with the immediate thinking. That's the trend. That the paper setting strategy. When I am also setting the certain papers, that will be the one other strategy, right? To test your knowledge in a proper manner. So therefore, immediate answer that comes to your mind may not be the correct answer. Immediate answer that comes to your mind may not be the correct answer. Therefore, these golden rules must be applied in a proper manner, right? But as far as these MCQ questions are concerned, students, in my reading of CL1 examination, so generally you have a 10 examination questions. So I have a categorization is 4, 4 and 2. 4 is generally generally easy, right? 4 are moderate, and sometimes 2 are extremely difficult. So therefore, when you are writing, when you are attending the MCQ question, don't try to be perfect and try to score all 10 questions. If you achieve 8, you are through. Looking at the tendency, I don't say this should not be done, but I am telling you is otherwise you will get stressed and sometimes you will get panic if you are unable to get an answer. So now this will be, but some student will be able to identify all 10 correctly as well. It's possible, but I'm telling you, for average student, don't try to be focused, devoting more than 30 minutes for the MCQ question, right? As far as the mock paper is concerned, just of one of my comments. So these 10 questions are so easy, right? So therefore, I don't expect this kind of a questions at the final exam. So this now looking at this 10 MCQ question, don't think that that will be the final examination question. You can see the last exam. So the paper MCQ questions are very tough. So therefore, don't expect this level. It will be much higher level, bit of a higher level than this. So otherwise, I have to tell you the correct fact of given the mock paper. If not, so sometimes you may expect this will be the final examination. This is mainly to support you or train you for the examination environment, right? Okay. So now all 10 MCQs are very easy. I will quickly finish it off, and I hope that the background is clear now and my instruction is clear, how time management is clear, and how MCQ questions are attended systematically. You know now, right? Having said the background, now let's see the MCQ questions, right? And also, if you have any questions also at the end of the MCQ questions, you can ask. I will stop from there and I will answer all your questions and go to the short scenarios. Right. So Bright Private Limited, name of the company is important, recently upgraded its internal control system. However, during an audit, management noted that the important financial reports, updates, and the policy changes were not reaching all employees promptly, causing delays and errors in reporting. Which components of internal control, chapter number 2 of internal control, which component of internal control primarily responsible for ensuring that the relevant and timely information flows throughout the organization to support effective decision making? You know the answer, right? You don't have to apply the elimination theory. So there are 5 elements of internal control as we learned. Internal control, chapter number 2, you know that the course of framework, we learned that there are 5 elements of the internal control environment, risk assessment process, monitoring, control activities, right? Communication and information. So now they are talking about the timely information flows. So now accordingly, definitely that is not the control activity, that is not the risk assessment, that is not the monitoring. So definitely that answer is the information and communication, right? That is the answer. Information and communication. So one of the easiest question I would say. It's not a difficult one. Even business level student can write that answer for this question. The second one, SMB Bank has recently identified the several internal controls to safeguard customer data and ensure regulatory compliance. The audit team is tasked with analyzing how well these controls are designed, implemented, and operating. SMB's bank control requires customer data to be encrypted before storage. However, the encryption method used is outdated and vulnerable. The issue is related to the primary for operating effectiveness, design effectiveness, implementation effectiveness, monitoring effectiveness. So if you can remember, students, the internal control, chapter number 2 of the study text that you learn. So generally, the internal control, there are a lot of control in the business organization, but those controls should be effective, right? Those controls should be effective. Otherwise, you have the control in the organization, but those are not properly being implemented. So ineffective control is generally coming under the 2 categories. One is designing, right? We call designing effectiveness. And other one is we call as implementation. In our language, we call implementation. For that, we call as, right? For that, we call as operating effectiveness. right? It's a design effectiveness and operating effectiveness. The internal control should be properly designed, right? It should be properly designed. And also, not only designing, it has to be properly implemented. For an example, say, the preparation of bank reconciliation is a control, right? One of the account executive prepare the bank rec and just file. That's all. That nobody review that bank reconciliation and no one take the corrective actions on that. So now designing itself that has a problem, right? Internal control has not been properly designed in order to cater to the control objective. But when it comes to the second part, implementation, yes, of course, it is properly designed. That means bank rec should be prepared by the account executive. It has to be presented to the accountant, should review and sign off. All that is there. But accountant does not sign off the bank rec. Even though the designing is there, implementation is not done. So when both are not there, overall effectiveness of internal control is not achieved towards the control objective, students. So therefore, so both the effectiveness should be ensured. So now in this case, bank's control requires a customer data to be encrypted. I hope that you are aware of the data encryption. We learn under the internal control as well as digital auditing environment, data to be encrypted. Let's say data, you have a lot of data, but you convert into the binomial language and then kind of a encryption keys there. So no one will be able to get the data as it is without the encryption key. So now in that case, problem is encryption method use is outdated and vulnerable. The method of doing the encryption is questionable. Is that the designing effectiveness or implementation effectiveness? You can easily tell that. Obviously, it is a design effectiveness, not properly designed, not the implementation. And therefore, your answer will not be the operating effectiveness. It's the not the implementation problem. It's not the both are same. Implementation effectiveness, not the monitoring. Obviously, answer is it is a design effectiveness. Right. The next question, students. Green Limited. This is Green Limited. Recently underwent an internal audit. During the audit, it was found that the approval for large purchase was sometimes bypassed by employees. This type of deficiency should be reported to. So this is simply bypassing the controls. Mean controls are not properly being implemented. And when the control deficiencies, we call kind of a control deficiency, approvals are not properly being followed. And this should be communicated to whom? Operational staff? No, right? It can't be operational staff. External customers? No pointing. IT department? No. Answer, you are well aware. Control deficiencies must be communicated to those charged with governance, right? The people who are responsible for the governance should be communicated the internal control deficiencies. Those are easy, right? That's what I told. MCQ questions here of the mock paper is not difficult. Anyone can answer these questions. Right. So the Supermart, the next one, Supermart is a small retail company. The external auditor is performing a risk-based audit focusing on key non-complex account balances and transactions such as inventory, sales, and the cash. Specific audit procedures must address relevant assertion risk. Supermart is a small retail company. The external auditor is performing a risk-based audit focusing on key non-complex account balances and transactions such as inventory, sales, and cash. Specific audit procedures must address the relevant assertion level risk. The auditor is concerned that some recorded inventory might not physically exceed. Which of the following is the most appropriate procedure to address this risk? That, of course, you can close your eyes and give the answer. If any physical assets not existing, if you have a risk, what you have to do is, are you going to do a physical count? No, you are not going to do a physical count. So basically what you have to do is, you have to attend the physical count as an observer as per SLA US 501, right? This is under audit evidence we discussed. SLA US 501 under the audit of inventory, under the audit evidence chapters we learn. So if you want to see the existence, obviously you have to attend to the physical verification of stocks as an observer. For confirm balances with vendors, no point. And perform inventory count observation, not the performing inventory count. So performing inventory count is not our duty, it is the management duty. What we do is then go and see whether the management count the or carry out the count of the physical verification in a proper manner, right? And test the bank reconciliation, not required at all, not relevant at all. Review the board minutes, so that is not correct. So therefore, perform inventory count observation will be the correct answer. Right, the next one, question number 5. Electro Private Limited. This is a private limited. This is a private limited. This is a small electronic wholesaler. The audit team is planning procedures to confirm the existence and accuracy of key balance in the financial statement. One of the team tasks is to use external confirmation 505 standard effectively for accounts receivable, bank balances, and other relationships. So one of the most trusted source of evidence is external confirmation in general terms. The audit team wants to confirm the trade receivable at the year end, which of the following is the best procedure. Remember, students, now when you look at the auditing questions, especially the MCQ question, examiner will ask the best procedure out of the 4 given. Sometimes the best procedure, what you know, is not there in that 4. The out of the 4 best will have to be commented. So especially when it comes to audit reporting and all, this confusion will there, students. If you look at the past papers also, a certain extent confusions are there because the best, most appropriate answer, most accurate answer is not there. But out of the 4, what best we have to select. Right. So what it says is the best procedure to obtain reliable and relevant evidence. Ask electro sales team to call customers and verify balance. Calling and verifying the balance is not practical. Send confirmation request directly to the customer using address from electro's record. Yes. And request electro's chief executive to confirm the customer balance via email. CU, chief executive. Will that happen? No. And use management oral confirmation of balances. That also not practical. So therefore, most appropriate best procedure will be the send confirmation request directly to customer using address from electro records, right? So I hope that that is also, I don't have to explain too much. So you are right, you know that in external confirmation procedure, even every examination, if you see the last few examination, even the last paper of December 2024, also there was a question in the confirmation procedures, the question number 7 part A. So it was from the confirmation procedure, right? So therefore each and every examination, there has been an examination question from the confirmation procedure, right? The next one, Stylish Private Limited, a clothing brand is being audited by the first time by S&M Associate, the external auditors, the first time. This is audited by first time, external auditors of the company. The previous year's financial statements were audited by another auditor. The previous year audit was done by another audit firm. The current auditor must assess the opening balances and the comparative figures from the last year. When accepting an initial audit engagement, auditor must trust. Initial audit engagement mean what, students? Say John Keells Holding, the auditor for the year 2024 was EY, let's say. Now year 2025, it is transferred to KPMG. For an example, say KPMG is taking up the audit of John Keells Holding from the year 2025. So for a KPMG, so John Keells audit first time of 2025, it will be an initial audit. It will be initial audit. So since we were not, the KPMG was not the auditors for the last year, the KPMG will have to carry out the audit procedures as given in the SLA US 510 initial audit engagement, right? So now the examiner is asking, when auditor is changed or the rotation or a change is taken place, what trust needs to be done? Say tomorrow, so being I'm the partner of an audit, let's say tomorrow I'm getting the audit of SoftLogic, let's say. So from our firm is getting the audit of sublogic from, let's say, from KPMG. So then what should I do first? That is what the examiner's question. What should I do the first, right? So prepare the draft opinion. Obviously, no, right? Draft opinion will happen after audit is over because the examiner is asking first. Then request prior tax filing. Yes, you have to request, but that is not first. Communicate with the predecessor auditor with the consent of the client management. I have to contact, let's say KPMG need to contact the EY and ask, and whether you have any professional reason as to why I should not accept this engagement. We call ethical clearance letter. That will be the first step before doing anything. And the test control or current case reporting. So that is not the answer. It's very clear. It's communicate with the predecessor auditor with the consent of client management will be the correct answer. Answer C. Right. The next one, student, question number 7. So Medi Supplies Limited. Medi Supplies Limited. And also one thing, student, with regard to the previous question. This is again a common in the among the CA1 examiner. If you see them in the last exam, even in the last examination, initial audit engagement is there. Even before also, I have seen that the initial audit engagement is there, very common. There are few standard and very common standard. There have been continuously repeatedly being tested. Sampling, initial audit engagement, confirmation, right? Subsequent event. So this kind of small areas are continuously being tested. So initial audit engagement also continuously being tested. Right, next one. Medi Supplies Limited is a medical equipment distributor undergoing its annual external audit. The auditor is designing audit procedures for purchases, sales, and inventory. The audit team plans to select testing item using appropriate selection method. I told you, right? Very common sampling to ensure audit effectiveness and efficiency. The audit is focusing on high value inventory. High value inventory item due to the risk of overstatement. The selection method is cold. One of the easiest question again. So when you are going to a high value of inventory, always auditors goes in that approach. Obviously, it is not one of the sampling techniques of systematic. You know, systematic means systematic. You take it a proper, keeping a proper interval, same interval, systematic. Haphazard sampling, no. Obviously, no. Haphazard is kind of advanced version of random. Value-added selection. Looks like these two are correct. Out of that, we are going by the high value inventory. I mean, it is not the value weighted selection. It is kind of a monetary unit sampling, MUS method of going to a high value sampling. And most of the time, students in the practical world, these are the two sampling techniques are highly applicable. Systematic sampling mostly for the test of control, multi-unit sampling mostly for test of details. So mostly, depending on the situation, we have to decide, but that is what the mostly applicable. Right, the next one is coming into the question number 8. And after finishing this MCQ question, I will give a short time for you to ask the questions or anything for that you want to get clarified. And say the next one is a Green Food Private Limited has requested a practitioner to compile financial statement from their accounting record for the interim period ended 30th June 2025. Compile for management to submit to one of the development bank from whom the company has sought a special loan for a business expansion. So now the client wants to submit the accounts to the bank in order to get the bank loan, and compilation engagement, the practitioner primary responsibility is to, right? Primary responsibility is to, right? Express audit opinion, review internal control, assess management in presenting financial statements from the financial statement, and confirm balances with third parties. Another examinable area, student, the this assurance engagement. So you have to have a solid, good knowledge, right? So if you don't have that, you are definitely going to stuck in the assurance engagement. The services that are provided by CA, so generally divided into two, right? One is called assurance services, other one called related services, right? Assurance services and related services are categorized based on the CREST classification. If 5 fundamental principles of an assurance engagements are satisfied, you take this route, assurance engagement. If not satisfied, you take the other route of related services. We call non-assurance services, right? Generally, you have two kind of non-assurance services: AUP, agreed upon procedures and compilation engagement. Right here, we don't give an assurance, right? Sometimes tripart relationship will not be there, right? So therefore, this is called as a non-assurance engagement. And assurance engagement is divided further into the financial information as well as other information. And financial information divided into the two. So we generally give a reasonable assurance and the limited assurance. And reasonable assurance divided into two. So general purpose finance statement, special purpose finance statement. General purpose finance statement audits are conducted based on the SLAUS. Special purpose finance statements are conducted SLAUS. This is from 200 to 720. This is SLAUS 800, 805, and 810. And limited assurance, you have two: Sri Lanka Standard on review engagement 2400, where the review engagements are carried out by other than the auditor of the company, other than Sri Lanka Standard on review engagement 2410, which is interim review, right? In other information mainly covered through the Sri Lanka Standard on assurance engagement. I hope that this summary you are aware. So basically you have a 3000 and 3050, 3051, 3400, 3402, 3410, 3420. All these standards are there, different matters. A comprehensive or a solid knowledge of this diagram should be there, student, before you go for the examination. So if it is not clear, you have to learn it properly. But if you look at the study text, it's not properly given this diagram, but you have to have this kind of a diagram. And when you look at the examination question, so sometimes drawing this diagram in the paper itself would be much better to avoid the wrong conclusions. Right. So now here examiner is asking compilation engagement. Compilation engagement anyway is a non-assurance services where you compile, right? Where you compile the information, right? Especially financial information in simply we call bookkeeping and preparation of accounts. So now there are, of course, compilation engagement express an audit opinion that anyway won't come, right? Audit opinion. Review internal control, both review, audit, review, both won't come here because audit, review mean all are this side. And confirm balance with third parties? No. So then elimination theory assists management in preparing the financial information in the form of financial statement. So that is the correct answer. I can see the number in the webinar not coming down and going up continuously. I'm happy that. So you have the courage now. I told you that courage testing day 2 weeks before. We'll see how many of you have the courage to wait till the end of the session in the midnight today. Right. So let's see your test yourself. So you have to have a positive mindset, courage, never giving up attitude, close to the examination. If you don't have that, right, all the chartered accountants who have become here and all of us have come through in that same journey. So you have to have that courage of real what I would say is determination on achieving this prestigious qualification of becoming a chartered accountant. That won't come in a free hand, student. So it has to have commitment, sacrifications. So next 2 weeks time, so you have to sacrifice that at this moment. So I will see your sacrification today. How many will be there at the end of the session today? All right. Then me kuwa makatti bundak. Adana yanda venna session again. Then so I'm going to tell a statement at the end of the session for the student who are there. Let's see how many will be there today. Right. Sorry, something went wrong. Right. So am I audible?
Yes, we can hear. Yes.
Right. Thank you. Sorry. So some interruption happened. Right. Question number 9, MCQ. So I hope that everyone will be there towards the end of the session to get my statement, what I'm going to tell you all today. Right. So Navaltech Private Limited. The Navaltech Private Limited, a Grovin technology firm, has significant related party loans. The external auditor of the company is in the process of designing audit procedures to respond to the risk identified on related party transaction. Generally, RPT is considered as a very high risk area in every audit. The audit team suspect that Navaltech may have undisclosed related party transaction. What is the key audit procedure to identify them? The audit team suspect the Navaltech may have undisclosed RPT. So there's a possibility to have undisclosed RPT. What's the key audit procedures to identify them? Key audit procedure. So all audit procedures may be appropriate, but you have to identify the key procedure. Review inventory turnover ratios. I don't think, right? Not relevant at all. Analyze significant year-end journal entries. Doubt. Inspect invoices for signature consistency. Of course, right. Conduct surprise cash count. No, that won't ensure the undisclosed RPT. Undisclosed RPT means there are some transactions engaged by the company with the related parties. Those are not properly being accounted or disclosed to the auditors or disclosed in the financial statement. So that kind of undisclosed, unadjusted, say, hidden in a simple way, hangapua. So hidden transaction can be identified by looking at the inventory ratio. It's difficult. Signature checking may not be really important. Surprise cash count will not ensure. At least to a certain extent, analyze significant year-end journal entries. Sometime through the year-end journal entries, transactions would have been hidden. So therefore, near to the year-end journal entries is going to be much important in terms of RPT balance verification. Then coming into the question number 10, the last question of MCQ. Mega Private Limited has engaged a firm of two types of services this year: an audit of finance statement and agreed upon procedure. There is an audit and agreed upon procedure engagement on inventory. The auditor must prepare a report for each engagement following the appropriate reporting framework. So there are two works, audit and agreed upon. Which element is required in an audit report but not in agreed upon? So now is asking which element in the report, right? Audit report but not in agreed upon. So we learned that in our previous diagram. Audit is coming here under the CREST satisfied and assurance engagement. Agreed upon is the related service where you don't give a assurance, where tri-party do not involve in the scenario, and CREST all 5 elements of the CREST are not satisfied. But the examiner is asking what should be there in the audit report but not in the agreed upon work. See, what is that? Identification of the subject matter should be there in both, right? Subject matter should be there. No? Without subject matter, you can't have agreed upon. No? Say for our audit firm, one of client is requesting to do a physical verification of fixed asset. Agreed upon. Subject matter is there, right? Fixed asset. Without subject matter, nothing can be there. Management responsibility for the subject matter, that is there in the both. Not we are responsible, right? Management should be responsible. An opinion or a conclusion? No. In agreed upon, there won't be opinion or conclusion. Opinion is given in audit. Conclusion is given in mainly review and assurance engagement. And description of the procedures performed anyway should be there. So therefore, answer will be answer C. Now, you can evaluate yourself how many marks you got for the all 10 MCQ questions. Are actual speaking, students, these questions are not difficult. And so therefore, I expect that the final examination on 29th will be a little bit of hard questions. More than this will be coming in. And So therefore, you have to get ready for that. But this is a kind of a testing paper, giving you an opportunity for the practice the actual examination environment. So therefore, I believe that this 10 question, of course, 10 out of 10 should be correct. So now my theory generally 4, 4, 2. This is my ratio, general ratio. But this 10 out of 10 is mandatory. If you don't have 10 out of 10, no problem. But you have to see what areas you went wrong and you have to study accordingly. Those areas, especially assurance engagement and internal control. Right. So do you have any questions before I move to the short case scenarios? Question number 2. Do you have any questions? So let me to answer whatever the question that you have. Do you have any question? You can drop a message in the chat box. Right. There are some questions. What is that? Why it is not come to trust? You want the answers. So this answer script is available. You can take a photo. This will be issued by CA by tomorrow. Right, all 10 question answers are there. You can take a photo and this answer script will be issued by CA tomorrow, so that you can take it as well. Can you explain, elaborate the diagram? Yes, I will explain that assurance engagement because there is a question number 3 also from assurance engagement. At that time I will do. And value weighted selection and MAUS. That is not a value weighted selection, right? It's not the value weight, it's a multivariate sampling. So you have to study the sampling techniques in properly, because if you don't have understanding sampling techniques, definite question will come, because sampling is in bread and butter. No, now say now I'm at office. So in this audit firm, sampling is primary, because without sampling there is no something called auditing, external audit. So therefore, that should be non-triple. Yeah, if you have any doubt, I can explain, but diagram I'll explain. Could you please show answers shown? Can't we take is operating effectiveness? It is not operating effectiveness. Operating effectiveness means implementation. This is not an implementation. No, question number 2. It's a designing, right? So they are using an old method. Old method usage of recommended method of the old one usage is a designing part, not the implementation. So once it is designed, say the control says that you have to use the recent backup method or something, encrypted method, but they don't use it, then operating effectiveness. But here is a designing part. What else? Sampling method and the selection methods, both are same. Question number 10, could you please explain again? Okay, we'll do. No problem. Anyway, there is no end in time, so we can do even any number of time. Right, so the mega private limited story, there are now that I have to explain from the diagram. This diagram is the assurance engagement, which you need to be aware. If you don't have this diagram, it's immediate thinking, take a note. Right, you take a note. This diagram must be known. So it's like it has to come like water. Diagram exam. So it has to be in your inside of the system of this diagram of assurance engagement. If you don't have that, I mean, not that diagram memorizing. it has to be understood and kept in your head that this is the assurance framework or assurance services that can be provided by a chartered accountancy audit firm or a chartered accountant in practice. When you become a member future, you should, right? You will definitely if you want to start an audit practice, these are the services that can you provide. So this diagram must be there for, right? So now the question number 10 is asking, this is an audit report and the agreed upon procedure, two different things. Here we generally give an assurance, reasonable assurance. Here no assurance is given. Here we don't give an opinion or conclusion. Here we give opinion. Opinion on the subject matter. Here we don't give an opinion. My management comes and tell me, can you do the fixed asset count? Okay, we'll do fixed asset count and I just calculate and give them. Or I just do a carry on the verification and give it that. That's all. I do whatever things that is asked from me. I don't do a certificate on that. I don't give assurance on that. So if something goes on, that is to be looked after by the client. We don't are responsible. But audit is not like that. You have to give an opinion. You are responsible for the opinion, right? It is governed by a technical standard, so much of a big process. So therefore, question number 10, it is asked that question number 10, it is asked what is the difference between the audit and the agreed upon in terms of reporting? In terms of reporting. Now, subject matter is there in the both, right? Without subject matter, you can't have anything. Management responsibility should be there in the both. But description of the procedures performed also should be there. But opinion and the conclusion would come from the agreed upon. So that is the difference. Right? Any other questions? Sampling technique questions answer is wrong. I give the value weighted. So that's you have to restudy then the sampling techniques. Right. Right. Let's go into the next question then. So I hope that so you got something from the MCQ questions. And sometime you may be watching this or joining in live without much proper preparation. Sometime you may be watching this one while sleeping or while on doing something else, but don't do. So I want you to sit in front of your study table and get properly and take the paper and properly concentrate. Sometime this 4 hours, I will be telling some of the things which are very crucial for your examination. So therefore, get note down all those points and do it properly. So we have to learn to do something properly when you are doing. It cannot be when you are doing something, it has to be done it properly. So if you are listening to the mock examination, it has to be listened to the mock examination, keeping out from the mobile phones and other works that you are currently doing. That will ensure that you grab the knowledge during these 4 hours as much as possible. Right, the question number 2 from ITGC control, IT application control. This is again from internal control. Chapter number 2, internal control, chapter 2. Right. So generally, so the time is important. Let's say you are doing this question as a second question, then 9:45, you have to finish this question. Right. Time is very crucial. You have only 15 minutes. You don't have time to waste. So during the 15 minutes, you have to write, understand the question, identify the answer, organize the answer, and write it also. So therefore, within, say, writing, you can take 5 minutes. Whereas 10 minutes, you have to read the question, understand, and organize the answer. But most of the students, what they do is they take a lot of time for writing because you have big stories to be written, not relevant at all. Even Mr. Aruna sent me some of the answer script that you will have written. I saw some of your answer script. Whatever, how many times we told that you are writing stories by stories and stories. I don't know why. Don't do like that. Be cut and write to the point that you have to write it. That's all. It will ensure that you are giving a right answer as well as you are saving your timing. Therefore, if there is a 15 minutes, 5 minutes only for the writing of the examination questions. Right. So take the highlighter. Very important. Highlighter should be there. Action verb, highlight. Number of marks you have to highlight. Because why? Action verb and the number of marks gives you a lot of insight with regard to the examiner's expectation and how up to what extent that you want to write, and all these will be there. So explain is the action verb and 5 marks. So you should immediately understand. So your examiner asks you to explain the importance of IT general controls and the application control in auditing the financial statement of Tax Solution Private Limited. You are required to explain 3 points. The examiner has told that you are required to explain 3 points, right? 3 points. So mark allocation will be made accordingly. So you have to explain. So now exam is asking this IT related control recently in the question number 2. If you look at the recent past papers also, student would say the recent examination question, the question number 2 focus on the IT controls, IT applications. Some students are not fluent. Some students don't have a proper understanding with regard to the IT controls and the IT aspect. So if you have any doubts, so just don't start with this question. Go and start with a question where you can easily get the confidence and the number of marks higher. That will ensure that so you continue properly during the 3 hours in the exam paper, right? So some students are not very strong in the IT control, but generally IT control questions is not difficult, but there is a bit of a thinking involved because that IT GC IT application must be connected to the scenario given. Right. So the examiner is asking the importance of IT general controls, right? And application controls in auditing the finance statement of Tax Solution Private Limited. So that means you cannot write the student general answers. You cannot write the general answers. You have to be case specific. If you are not writing the case specific answers, examiner will reduce the marks because it says of Tax Solution Private Limited. Right. The part B of the question is explain 2 potential risks for 5 marks. Action verb, number of marks. Explain 2 potential risks that may arise from weaknesses in the company's IT general and application control. That is something that you have to think and write. Explain 2 potential risks that may arise from the weakness in the company's IT general control and IT application control. Right. So now we look at the question. So read the question. But I know that some of you have not understood what the examiner's expectation here. Explain IT general controls and the application controls importance in audit. Sometime when you just read the question, you will not get the meaning. Now you try to think about in your language. Api audit එකක් කරන්න යනවා. මේ audit එක කරන්න යන company controls තියෙනවා. A controls වල IT controls තියෙනවා. A controls වල IT general control තියෙනවා. IT application control තියෙනවා. මේ company ඇතුලේ තියෙන මේ controls අපේ audit එකට වැදගත් වෙන්නේ කොහොමද? We are going to carry out audit of a company. So that audit of the company, that company has a controls, general controls and the application controls are there. So now in the general controls and the application controls, how those are going to be, right? How those are going to be important in carrying out the audit, right? Audit of the finance statement. Can someone give just an answer in a single point? How this is going to be important for the auditor? Company's IT control, how that is going to be important for audit? Yes, good. I mean, all those controls are needed for the company. There is no No second thought of that. We learn on the internal control chapter how the controls are getting connected to the statutory audit. We learn that principle is tested here. How? Just give a simple answer. So I'm reading just some of the answers. Identify the risk and control deficiencies, identify risk, and help to reduce risk. Auditor can place reliance on control and apply the combined approach. Good, very good. Finance statements are preparing use the IT system to perform the deficiencies identified to the company system. Auditors can test the control through the CAT application. Audit may not be able to rely on the substantive audit procedures. Can use more TOZ, reduce fraud. Good. Some answers are correct. Some answers are totally irrelevant. Okay. Now in a simple language, students, just forget about the IT control. Any control of the business organization, how it helped to the audit. In auditing, you know, there are two auditing approach mainly. One is the fully substantive approach. Other one is a combined audit approach. Combined audit approach, you reduce the work of substantive work by relying on the controls of the business organization. When the IT application controls are good or IT general controls are good, what happens is auditor can rely on those controls by performing the test of control, can reduce the extension or extensive testing of the audit. Say if these controls are not effective, what will happen is you cannot go by the combined approach. You will have to go to the fully substantive approach where you have to devote more and more time. In simple language, you have to, that will be the end outcome of this question. But the examiner is asking the importance of IT general controls and IT application control and linking into the Tech Solution Private Limited, right? Now, so first of all, when you are answering into this question, you can understand that the 5 marks are being allocated. So that means you need to understand that minimum 3 points are required to be written. Minimum 3 points are required to be written, right? So out of 3 points, at least 2 points should be connected to the case scenario given here, right? If not, that is not relevant. So now in this question, the examiner's end expectation is to see the importance of the ITGC, IT application control, and the student who don't know what is ITGC, IT application in a companies, say in a companies, there are systems, information systems like mobile phones. So for an example, this mobile phone, if you so you will put some controls to protect the entire mobile phone, say backdrop or something, say tempered glass. All those are protecting the entire mobile phone. So similarly, in the company's information system also, there are some controls to protect the entire system. Those are general control like access control. An application control means specific application within the business organization, like say here in this mobile phone, WhatsApp, Telegram. So all these are like applications. So those will have separate controls. Similarly, companies payment, receipts, payroll, all those are different application. So controls are there for those applications as well. That is application control. So now when you are writing in the answer to the examination in this particular question, student, so you need to at least write 3 points, right? The first of all, we have to see the IT general controls and application control and what those, and how, first of all, we have to say ITGC and what is this ITGC in the given scenario and what is IT application control in the scenario, right? And so scenario of how to identify these controls, ITGC and IT application control in the scenario. Then you have to say how this is going to be used at audit. Actually, this is the expected answer. Have you written this one? And sometimes you would have given the final answer. Since the auditor relies on the controls, therefore ITGC is important. But you have forgotten 5 marks is given by the examiner. Examiner to give the 5 marks. You should have the adequate answer. So then you have to link it into the case scenario. IT GCs are there. IT application controls are there. And in this company, there are automation process. And accordingly, auditor can use this control if those effective to reduce the testing. Simple. Right. Let's read the question now. So your firm is auditor. Your firm is the auditor of Tech Solution Private Limited. Your firm is the auditor of the Tech Solution Private Limited, the company, a rapidly growing software development firm with over 200 employees. The nature of the business is very important. So you have to get absorbed into the nature of the business. Think about that. Okay, I'm auditing a tech solution, like kind of a software development company. So that has to be in the mind. The company processes payroll and customer billing entirely through its internal enterprise ERP. They have a ERP system. Of course, if they have ERP, ITGC IT application going to be important. During the audit planning, you noted that the IT department has a small team where the system administrator also perform the routing data entry. System administrator is to look after what? Generally, the system administrator is therefore looking after the IT general control of the business organization, of controlling the entire system of the company. But is doing the data routing mean that's a problem. Furthermore, the billing application allows users to manually override the system generated validation checks. So manually override. You can do in the system itself. You can do the manual overriding part. So that is a big problem. Management explained that these arrangements are temporary, but no mitigating controls have been introduced yet. The finance team relies heavily on the automated reports generated by the ERP for revenue recognition and payroll expenses. Given the volume of transaction and the increasing complexity, the audit team needs to assess the IT control environment carefully. When the number of transactions are high, when the complexity is high, anyway, auditor has to looking into the IT controls. If not, auditor will not be able to provide 100% assurance, or auditor will not be able to carry out the risk-based auditing as required in the auditing standards. Right? So I know that some of you won't get the answer properly here. What examiner expect? Now we'll read again the question. Explain the importance of IT general controls and the application control in auditing. Now, in this organization perspective, you have to talk, not in general term. In the Tech Solution Private Limited, there are IT general controls, and already there is an incident, right? Already there is an incident of the administration involved in the data entry operation, IT general controls. So therefore important. First point. Application controls are there, like manual overriding of the validation check, and also that is the application control weakness is there. So that you have to explain. Then you have to coming into the C. Since the company is fully automated, the proper control should be there. If the proper controls are there in the business organization, obviously, auditor will be able to rely on those controls and the reduce the testing accordingly. That is the examiner's expectation for the answer A. I will show the answer. Just look at what the examiner's answer. C. Read the answer. But you don't have to produce a similar answer like that, but you have to have the meaning, especially the meaning of reduced testing. If you are relying on the control, that should be there. If that is not there, it's a big problem. Foundation or the fundamentals of auditing are you don't know of the core auditing principles. Effective ITGs ensure that only authorized personnel can access the modified financial data and application, thus maintaining integrity, confidentiality, and the availability of the financial information. ITG's perspective, right? Application controls are embedded in the billing and the payroll application, can help to ensure the transactions are complete, accurate, and valid. These include input validation control, authorization controls, and automated calculation. I know that you won't write into this level. At the company where the payroll and the billings are processed entirely through the automated systems, strong ITGC and the application control reduce the risk of data manipulation, errors, and the fraud. Auditors rely on these controls to gain assurance that the financial statement data generated by the ERP system is trustworthy, which affect the extent and the nature of the substantive procedures. So this is what the most needed answer. And plus point we say ITGC, IT application control, and why it is needed for this IT solution tech solution private limited, then the purpose of that. Weakness in this control increase the in-control risk and may require the auditor to perform additional testing, right? So that I hope that, so all of you would have identified this particular point, the last 2 points at least in the answer. Just check your answers and see whether at least you have identified these two, whether you have that. No. No means, so you are weak in the ITGC, IT application control. You have to study back, right? Study as much as possible. So ITGC, IT application control, there are some recent past papers as well from this particular area. So you can do that. Even KB4 past papers, there are some questions from this area, so that you have to see. Right. So what happened is explain two potential risks that may arise from weaknesses in the company's IT general and application controls. So weaknesses in the company's IT general and application control. So what kind of what kind of a risk is there in the two issues given in the scenario? Now in the first scenario, students, the administrator perform the routing data. We are the small team. IT department has small team where the system administrators also perform the routing data entry tasks due to the resource constraining. Furthermore, the billing application allows users to manually override the system generated validation checks for invoices, right, without requiring approval. So this will be the weakness number one. Sorry. Right. What's happening? Right. Weakness number one. So this is ITGC, right? Weakness number one is basically coming into the access control. So generally access should be, right? Administrative action should be given to administrative task, and other people data entering access should be given to the data entry part. So if the access is not properly monitored, access is not properly restricted, so there is a risk involved, students, right? There's a risk involved. Probably. So here we are talking about something very important: segregation of duties. The duties are not properly being segregated. All can enter the data and all. It's going to be a big problem. It's definitely the segregation of duties are not properly there. So therefore there is a risk of that the manipulation can be done by the staff who are engaging with that. And also there is a possible to have errors because some unknown people will come and do the data entering and all that. So because of the access control of lacking in the ITGC, connected to the segregation of duties will result. Risk of the access control will result the manipulation and the errors with the connected with the segregation of duties. That is what the risk factor is here. And also when the manual override of system generated validated checks. So this is kind of a IT application control. This application control will definitely, it can be overwritten by a manually overwritten option is there main, right? So definitely there will be a question of the accuracy of the data being processed in this billing application. So data accuracy is going to be a problem, especially with the sales and debtors, right? Especially with the sales and the debtors. So there is a data accuracy challenge. So that is a risk factor here. Now here the risk is segregation of duty connected to the manipulation and the errors. Here it's a question about the accuracy. Accuracy may go wrong in terms of the sales and data. That kind of explanation examine expect during the examination. But I'm sure students, the most of you would have not got the correct answers here, because you would have written sometime different answers, you would have not understood the question properly. So if you are sometime a similar answers, say not required to be the exactly of the answer that I'm showing here or given by CA Sri Lanka, but there can be sometime similar answers. So if you have any similar answer, the examiner will give you the marks. It doesn't really require to be the exact answer, but is given here. Even nearby answers will be granted the marks. So if you have any doubt, you drop the message. I will see whether your answer is correct or wrong. So in terms of this part B. Right. So what the examiner's answer for the part A and B? C. So this is the weakness in the ITGC and application control, risk of unauthorized access and fraud, risk of incorrect, incomplete billing transaction. The lack of segregation of duties in the IT department means the system administrators also perform the routine data entry. SOD, this word must should be there. If that is not there, half a mark reduce. This concentration of duties can allow unauthorized users to manipulate payroll or billing data without detection, increase the risk of fraudulent transactions or unauthorized changes to the financial record, kind of a manipulation. The ability of users to override system input validation without approval undermines the key application controls. This can lead to invalid or inaccurate invoices. Affecting revenue recognition and the receivable balances. Errors so intentional misstatement may go undetected, impacting the reliability of financial statements. Right? Any questions on this one? Can you please express your answer for 2A? Can we write the cyber security risk now? Just to highlight one thing, students. Now, controls are, understand this point. Controls of a business organization are not part of the auditors. Controls are put by the business organization in order to achieve 3 objectives within the business. Can you remember? Right? Effectiveness of business operation, ensuring the effectiveness of business operation, enhancing the reliability of financial reporting and compliance with the laws and regulation. So in order to achieve these 3 objectives, the mechanism that is introduced within the business organization is called as internal control. Nothing to deal with auditors. That is required to run their business. Right? So therefore, controls are looked from the management perspective in an organization. That's all in a simply. Now, cyber security risk, cyber security threat, all those are talking from the management point of view. In your examination, the section 1, part A of your syllabus is the internal control. Basically looking at the perspective of the management. ITGC, IT application, how those are being monitored, right? How control objectives are being achieved. All these are within the business organization, right? But part B of your syllabus is talking about how these internal controls are going to be used by the auditor in achieving his core objective of expressing an opinion on the financial statement. So this must be segregated properly. Now, in this particular case study, the examiner expects you to identify the part A talking about how these controls are going to be used by the auditor. And what is the usage of these controls are going to be used to the auditing perspective. So therefore, nothing to talk about, right? Nothing to talk about the cyber security and all that. We have to see these controls. And examiner doesn't ask you to write the control weaknesses, not like that. So how these controls are going to be used by the auditor. So that is for test of control. That's a co-auditing theory. Part B is asking, right? Part B is asking from the auditor perspective itself, If these weaknesses are there in the business organization, how that will impact to the financials, how that will affect to the financial reporting channel, which are important for us at the audit of financial statement. So auditors lens you have to see these two questions. But in the meantime, student, these questions can be tested from the management point of view as well. So when the companies are there, there can be some cyber security risk, cyber security threat, right? Can be some control objectives, control threat, control risk, and all that is there. But this both the questions are being tested from the auditor's lens to look at the control, how that is going to be used to the auditor, and also this control weaknesses given here, how that will impact the financial statement in the auditor's lens. So therefore, this differentiation must be there in a properly at the examination. And I request you, if you are weak in this ITGC IT application, especially the IT application control or the control environment questions, so please attend at least 4 or 5 question number 2 of the recent past papers. It's really, really important. Right, let's go into the next question then, if you are all right. Isn't using an internal ERP system risky and isn't also important in auditing? Yes, it is important in auditing, but just because of you are using an internal ERP, that doesn't mean that it is that itself has a significant risk, because the companies can develop their own, because this is a software development company, right? So you have to see the nature of the business. Software development company, they will have their own softwares. They do say, you are being a software development company, will you get another software from someone else? Not required, right? Say, so they're not required. So therefore, it doesn't mean that the internal enterprise system, ERP system itself has a risk. So because that anyone can develop their own system in a proper manner. Can't we write the ITGC and IT application controls are interdependent? Yeah, interdependent. IT application controls are not effective and when ITGC are not properly implemented. Therefore, the more focus on ITGC before look at the ITGC, in addition to the search answer, it's not relevant at all. Examiner doesn't ask the relationship between these two. So if you have written it, correct answer, but not relevant for this scenario. Then risk are answered as one from ITGC and other from IT application control. Yes. So this is IT, one is GC and one is application control. Can we write the cybersecurity risk? No, that cannot be. It's not coming here. Right. Going to the next. This is not a difficult question. That is one of the easiest question. No hurry for today. We are going to finish at the midnight. So all are listening in a proper manner, because all want to pass the exam this time. Right, the trend PLC. The next one is a PLC, nature of the company. But before that, you have to look at the required part of the question. The required part of the questions is explain for 5 marks. Action verb is so crucial, number of marks allocated so crucial. Immediately it should work in your mind. Okay, this much of number of marks will be given for 1 point, and therefore I have to write this much of number of points. So that kind of a analysis is important. Explain 3 key procedures your firm is required to perform when conducting review engagement on the company's interim financial statement. Explain the appropriate Sri Lanka assurance related standard for the applied and scope for 2 marks. Explain any 3 key elements that should be included in the assurance report issued by for CSR engagement. This is kind of, students, again a very contemporary matter. Sustainability reporting is so crucial as far as the current application perspective, because the audit firms are also carrying out lot of now assurance engagement on the sustainability. And everywhere we are talking about the sustainability in financial reporting, non-financial reporting. So therefore, CSR, ESG reporting, sustainability reporting is one of the hot topic these days because IFRS S1, S2, IFRS S1 and S2 has coming into the scene. So therefore, you need to have an understanding how this IFRS is one. So right, IFRS is one, sustainability standard 1 and sustainability standard 2, how those are going to be impacted in the companies and how those are going to be reviewed by the auditors, audit firm, based on what standard all those reports are going to be issued. And if you look at annual report, let's say John Nicholas annual report, student, there are sustainability related assurance separately given, so you can have a look on that. So kind of there is a hot topic going through as of now, sustainability reporting. Therefore, I have a prediction, my gut feeling and the prediction. I'm not the examiner for you all, but I have a prediction for 29 June examination. Now the paper would have been already set. Everything is finished by the CA Sri Lanka. I don't know. But my prediction, given the hot topic of these days, IFRS S1 and S2, sustainability related assurance engagement, there can be a 10-mark questions. So therefore, giving a prediction now itself, please get ready for the sustainability reporting. All right. How assurance report is given. Get an annual report of John Keels or Dialog, or let's say Dialog, you take it and have a look on the assurance report. In addition to the audit report, there's a separate report of an assurance. Have a look on that. How, on what standard has been applied by the particular audit firm, and that standard, how the report has been issued, and also have a look on the particular standard is Sri Lanka Standard and Assurance Engagement 3000, which we use for the sustainability reporting. All right. Just give a hint for you all to get ready. If there is examination question on 29th, you will remember the day of today. We had the mock paper discussion at CA and that was predicted. Right. The Trend PLC, the company is planning a right issue to raise capital. The company has requested its external auditor to perform the following: a review engagement on its interim financial statements for the 6 months ended 31st March 2025, prepared according to the Sri Lanka accounting standard. Interim financial statements, anyway, you have to give a review engagement, correct? An assurance engagement on its newly published corporate social responsibility CSR report, covering labor practice, environmental impact and community initiatives. Covering labor practices, environmental impact and the community initiatives. The review engagement and the assurance engagement will be conducted concurrently but reported separately. Right, so I'll go to my diagram, which I explained at the MCQ discussion. Now in this diagram, you need to have a good understanding. I can't explain the entire theory here, but you need to have a good understanding of this diagram. If you are not clear about this diagram, have a study text, look the study text and just try to get a proper knowledge over there. Right, so here, now basically, examiner asking two services in that there. One is this particular standard, Sri Lanka Standard on Review Engagement 2410. We are talking about the review engagement. Review of financial statement where the interim financial statements are prepared. When companies, say John Keels Holding, they prepare an interim financial statement for a 3 month of the year 2025, say first quarter. So that must be reviewed by the existing auditor. Remember, this particular standard can only be applied by the existing auditor. It cannot be done by another audit firm. Say, John Keels Holding auditor is KPMG. KPMG can only do the review part as well. But this particular standard applied in a situation where existing or a statutory current auditor cannot do that review. So this differentiation has to be identified. So this review engagement, obviously, you know that we give a limited assurance. Limited assurance. And also we are basically aware students when the limited assurance means what? We beautifully say at the opinion, nothing has come to our attention that causes us to believe that the financial statements are materially misstated. How beautiful. How nice. So in audit of financial statement, how we say? Audit of financial statement, we say, in our opinion, the financial statement of the company are not materially misstated. In that there where we give a reasonable assurance. But in the review engagement, we say, nothing has come to our attention that causes us to believe that the financial statements are materially misstated. කළමනාකරණය විසින් පිළියෙල කරන ලද මූල්‍ය ප්‍රකාශන කට්ටලය ප්‍රමාණාත්මක වරදි පවතින්නේ යයි සඳහන් කිරීමට තරම් කිසිවක් අපගේ අවධානයට ලක් වූයේ. We don't say that the financial statements are good, but we haven't received any information to say bad as well. Right? It's a kind of a different opinion given, we call limited assurance. When you are expressing a limited assurance, we know, students, that basically we carry out two audit procedures. One is inquiry, other one is analytical review procedures. So one is inquiry, another one is analytical review procedures. Right? So now the examiner is asking here, when you carry out the review engagement, what kind of audit procedures are to be performed by the, what kind of audit procedures to be performed by the, right? Key procedure the firm is expected to perform when review engagements are being. Yeah. In simply, you can't just write the inquiry from the management. If you just write the inquiry from the management, you won't get the marks properly. You see 5 marks. So that means at least 1.5 will get for the each point. If you just say inquiry from the management, only half a mark we will receive. You have to say inquiry from the management on the significant accounting, unusual transaction, accounting policy changes, and the business operation and all that. You inquiry from the management. The second one, you say the analytical review procedures. No, that is wrong. You have to say the analytical procedures with compare to the previous year budget and the significant fluctuations. Likewise, you have to write the story to get more marks. Right? And sometimes that is meant to, in addition to that, in the theory note, the study text, if you go, so I can go to the study text place, but I don't have a time. So you can look at it that there are a lot of procedures that can be performed for the review engagement. So it is given in the assurance services engagement in the study text. And it very clearly says that what procedures can be done, reviewing the board minutes, reviewing the interim financial information, right? So likewise, there are various obtaining understanding on that, on those kind of various things can be done. But two key things should be there, inquiry and the ERP. Then now, if there is a student here who has not written these two, inquiry and the ERP, be careful, your assurance engagement knowledge is not sufficient. Please have proper studies of the assurance engagement. There will be a definite 10 marks. Right. So if you look at the answer given by the examiner, see, inquiry analytical procedures, perform inquiries of management and the relevant personnel about the significant accounting matters, unusual transaction changes. Actually, this should be corrected as inquiry. Right. Then the conduct analytical procedures is number 2, such as ratio analysis, trend analysis, comparison with budget, prior periods, and identify unexpected variances and the relationships. Obtain an understanding of the entity's business and the environment to evaluate the plausibility of financial information. Review the minutes of the board meetings. Evaluate whether nothing has come to attention that suggests the finance statements are not prepared in material misstatement. Actually, this is not required because giving an opinion may not be coming into there. So, but these two will be the key procedures that are expected to be written. Right. The second one, exam is asking, explain the appropriate Sri Lanka assurance related standard to be applied and its scope. And you need to understand that is being given for the part 2. It's understood. An assurance engagement on its newly published corporate social responsibility report covering labor practices and the environmental impact on the community initiatives. Obviously, you should have already learned that. So this kind of a CSR initiatives in our diagram, that comes in the situation where other information in our diagram that's coming under the situation where our mother standard is applied here, 3000 assurance engagement, right? Sri Lanka standard assurance engagement 3000 is applicable when the CSR is coming in, because that is a other information, right? So the scope of the right, appropriate Sri Lanka standard on assurance engagement will be applied to that scope is mainly will be, right? Sri Lanka standard on assurance engagement 3000, it will be the answer, right? And mostly, so you, if there is a financial data, you can give a positive assurance, and all other data, non-financial data, you will give a negative assurance, right? Negative assurance, limited assurance, because you cannot say, right? See, community problem and all those, you can't give a reasonable assurance. You have to give a limited assurance where you cannot come into the proper 100% conclusion over there. And they explain 3 key elements that should be included in the assurance report issued by the CSR engagement. What should be the, student, did you notice that key elements? It should be key elements. You cannot just write the title, signature, address that is coming on every services. How many of you noticed this one? Key element that should be included in the assurance report issued for the CSR engagement. Key elements, right? So what kind of a key elements should coming in? Obviously, students. So the key elements mean the subject matter should be properly there, right? On what we are going to give an opinion. That's key, subject matter. And then the responsibility of the management and the practitioner is a key. Conclusion must be there, right? What conclusion, what kind of a conclusion, limited to reasonable or whatever the conclusion must be there. So those are key. In addition to that, you can say that scope, the title, and all those sometimes may not be the key. So these 3 will be the key, and scope also can be taken, but definitely not the title. So therefore, at the examination, you have to explain the key elements mean all key titles, and except the titles and all should coming in. Actually, I will go to the study text, the particular chapter, right? Because then I will show you that how important that assurance engagement. I'll take 5 minutes, it doesn't matter, because at the last minute, I know that these informations are important for you all. Right, the examiner has given the answer. The appropriate standard, Sri Lanka standard on assurance engagement 3000, correct? And 3000 applies when a practitioner provides a reasonable or limited assurance on the non-financial subject matters such as CSR report. And key elements, subject matter and criteria should be given. Responsibilities of management and the practitioner, assurance conclusion. So these are the, I would say, mainly. In addition to that, other acceptable elements will be the scope of the engagement, summary of the procedures. So all these coming in. But remember, if you have written the title and addressee and all that, you won't get the marks, because you are not noticed the what the key elements story. Right, let me 2 minutes to 5 minutes go to your study text. Part 2. Actually, in your study text, volume 2. And if you go to assurance and related services in chapter 17 on 495, we will go to the right. So students, now this particular chapter, you need to remember each and everything, because there will be definite 12 or 14 marks at the examination. if you can't make a conclusion or the judgment properly, that's the end of the entire 14 marks. If you are losing the entire 10 or 12 marks coming in the examination of assurance engagement, you forget about the passing of the exam in this time. So therefore, I'm warning to you all that the assurance and the related services, the chapter must be properly studied again and look at all these learning outcomes whether you can answer if there is examination question. It's sometimes it is not properly been organized in a way that you can simply understand this area in the syllabus of this study text content. But if you properly read, go through, taking a time, so it will be able to grab the my diagram which I shown you. So the diagram is so important. And if you see, all the services are being explained here. For the diagram to a certain extent is here. Diagram is certain extent is to here. So you should be able to link this diagram into the practical situation. All right. If you don't do this one, it's going to be a big problem. And the review of financial statements is here, and which we were talking now, and agreeing terms and all that, performing the engagement details are there. And we'll go to the next one. It says the review of interim finance information performed by the independent auditor of the entity that we were talking now. Procedures. See, from these only examiner was testing the procedures for the review engagement. So likewise, students, I'm requesting you all, and I will tell you few important standards definitely should be known. So this particular chapter should be properly known for the examination. So let me to go to the diagram again. Remember, these standards must be known properly. These are highly examinable, highly say about the practical world. So now I'm a partner of an audit firm. So when I work, I know that what kind of services are commonly being requested by the clients, right? Those will be tested at the examination. What those? So you should be aware about the 2410 Sri Lanka Standard on, right? Review engagement 2000. I'll write here Sri Lanka Standard on review engagement 2410 must be known, right? And then agreed upon procedures, Sri Lanka Standard on related services 4400 should be known properly. Then Sri Lanka Standard on assurance engagement 3000 mother standard should be known properly. Another one more, Sri Lanka Standard on assurance engagement 3400 that we call as PFI, prospective financial information should be known properly. These four are highly examinable, must be known properly. Right. So it's almost 2 hours. Doesn't matter. We don't have a hurry to finish today. Right. Let's go into the question number 5. Before question number 4, I'll go to the question number 5. Is one of the easiest question. We can quickly finish it off. What is question number 5? Look at the action verb. Evaluate 2 threats to the auditor's independence presents in the scenario using the conceptual framework approach. Evaluate 2 threats to the independence of the auditor for 3 marks. Evaluate 2 threats. Suggest a possible 1 safeguard each that could be implemented to the mitigating risk identified in one above. So one of the easiest questions in the Code of Ethics. And advise the audit committee on 3 specific actions it should take to strengthen the oversight of the internal audit function in the scenario. So this one question from the Code of Ethics for 5 marks. Other one from the internal audit chapter for 5 marks. Right. We'll read the questions. The Silicon PLC is a listed manufacturing company. The external auditor JS Associate. External auditor JS Associate has audited the company for the past 10 years. Recently, the company's CFO recommended hiring JS Associate to provide tax advisory services related to an international expansion strategy. So while you are an auditor of a company, right, say say Silicon PLC. So let's say S is our client. Our audit firm is J&S, and we are reporting to the shareholders, right? We are reporting to the shareholders. So can't write. Right. So now we are the auditors currently. JS Associate is the auditors of the company currently. And in addition to the audit, now they are asking us to do the carry out the tax advisory service as well. So definitely tax advisory is going to be agreed upon procedures. There are no assurances provided. The engagement partner at JS Associate has a long-standing relationship with the CFO, having worked together at the previous company. So they have worked together in a previous company, and obviously there is a threat involved. So when you are working for a long time, work together at the previous company, and now you are working in the company, and other auditor is dealing with him, what kind of a threat could coming in? Students, just providing the tax advisory services for an audit client creates a number one self-review threat. Do you agree? Yes. So if you are auditor of the company, if your audit firms carry out the tax advisory services, what will happen? At the time of the audit, you are going to review the tax advices, tax calculations, return filing that was done by you. So obviously, when the tax service is provided by the audit firm, where the client is, you are the auditor of the client as well. Obviously, it's create a self-review threat. And also, the audit firm partner and the CFO are very long-standing friends who have worked together. Creates what? Obviously, it's create a familiarity threat. Familiarity threats. Very simple. Right? So now the examiner is asked in the second paragraph, the company has an internal audit function, but it lacks clear reporting lines. The head of the internal audit report the functionality to the CFO and only presents to the audit committee. When requested, the audit committee is concerned about the effectiveness and independence of the internal audit team and seeks professional advice on the strength in its oversight role. Right. Part A of the question is asking the two threats, self-review and the familiarity. Right. So that's very clear. You have to explain it. And suggest a possible one safeguard for self-review. What should be the safeguard? Before looking at the safeguard, student, you have to see whether the safeguard can be applied or not. Whether the safeguard can be applied or not, we have to see before looking to the safeguard. I hope that you can remember the so 5-step model. 5-step model I have given to you all in a webinars. The 5-step model to address the code of ethics questions. Right? There we look at before we coming into the safeguard, we have to see the safeguard can be applied or not. Right? So in this background, now tax computation preparation, can the safeguard be applied? Yes, of course, can be applied to a certain extent. You know that there are 3 kind of tax services is considered in the code of ethics application in the theory. So tax advisory services, it does not involve the designing the figures. It can be provided. Then you have to put a separate team. We call Chinese wall. Chinese wall has to be put. Separate team is engaged for the tax advisory work. And when there's a familiarity threat between the audit partner and the CFO, what can be done? Obviously, you can rotate the partner, or you can give it to another engagement partnership to another partner, or you can appoint another independent partner to review the work that is done. A simple safeguards. Right. Part B says the advised audit committee on 3 specific actions it should take to strengthen its oversight of the internal audit function. Now there is an issue here. The company has an internal audit function, but it lacks the clear reporting line. The head of the internal audit report functionally to the CFO and only presents to the audit committee when requested. Is that correct? Can you remember, students? Internal auditor should be an independent person, right? Independent to the operational. Say in a company, board of directors are there. Under the board of directors, there can be a CEO and FM. Let's say functional managers are there, IT, HR, operation, research and development, internal auditor, like, right? This board of directors, there's a committee called audit committee. This internal auditor should report to the audit committee. Now, internal auditor is reporting to the FMP, no point in having an internal audit function. There is no independence in the inside. Right? So therefore, here there is a question. There's a question. Examiner is asking, advise the audit committee what action to be taken to strengthen the internal audit function. What action audit committee can take? Immediately, the reporting channel should be changed. Immediately, the reporting channel should be changed. It has to be reported to the audit committee. That is number one. And second one, say audit committee when requested. Correct. Audit committee when requested only they report. It doesn't work. See, say students on a PLCs or a bigger companies, generally would say they have timeline fixed. Quarterly audit committee meeting, monthly inter audit meeting. So budget presentation, approval of the budget, right? Everything is fixed. We call calendar. That kind of a mechanism should be there to monitor the inter audit department. Otherwise, there is no meeting. So therefore, internal audit charter we call that must be prepared by the head of the internal audit, and that is to be presented to the audit committee and approve. Audit committee should involve in approving the internal audit plan. Otherwise, there is no meaning. You go without a plan. So that should be there, right? And also, the audit committee should review the performance of the internal auditor, head of the internal auditor. Their pressure should be done. So, number one, there should be a reporting channel correction. There should be a plan for the internal audit department. Internal audit department performance must be reviewed by the audit committee. These three things can be done by an internal audit committee in order to strengthen the internal audit function in the organization. Right. So if you see the question number 5 answers, not 4. 4 is quality management, a good question. Question number 5. So that I'm not going to read, but this will be available to you all tomorrow. But examiner self-review and the familiarity. And safeguard separate team for the audit and tax services to ensure the tax service does not involve the judgment relevant to the audit. Familiarity threat, rotate the engagement partner and introduce an independent quality review to of the engagement. And then advice to the audit committee, ensure functional reporting line to the audit committee. Student, now when you are writing the answers, it's better always to write the heading like this and give the explanation that is clear. Your answer is solid to the examiner, and examiner also knows that what are you going to tell. The head of the internal audit should report directly to the audit committee, not management, to maintain the independence. That is 2 marks. Approval of the internal audit plan and the budget. The committee should review the approve internal audit priorities to ensure alignment with the risk areas and the objectively. Conduct performance appraisals and assess independence. The audit committee should evaluate the internal auditor's performance and independence, ensuring freedom from undue influence by management for 1.5 months. Right. What are the questions you have from here? Answer for the part A is asked, so you can see this one. Don't worry, this answer script will be shared by See you tomorrow. What are the other questions? Cooling off period. It's a yes, cooling off period means it's a rotation. And doesn't the advocacy threat comes into the place as ethical threat when auditor involved the tax advisory? Advocacy threat, yes, to a certain extent it will come because you are appearing. So it will come mainly if you are going into the resolve a dispute with the Inland Road Department and all. This is kind of a foreign expansion. So this is specifically telling about the foreign expansion tax advisory service. So in such cases, advocacy may not coming into that level. Advocacy will come in a situation where, say, you are appearing on behalf of your client. So this is a consultancy service. So it may not be properly coming in. Don't we need to consider mandatory rotation of lead engagement partner in the case of listed entity? Yes, that should be considered. Is there information in relation to the period? So read that. The JS associate has audited the company for the past 10 years, right? And audit firm can be the auditor of any company for any number of years. There is no restriction. Restriction coming into the engagement partner. Understand? There is no restriction for the audit firm for most of the company. But when it comes to the banks and financial institutions, there's a separate law coming from the central banking act. Then there's a limit. But other than the general circumstances as per the code of ethics, there is no restriction for the firm to change. Now, say some of my clients I have been handling for a long time. If it's a private limited, if it's a PLC, even audit firm will handle. The partner rotation will take place. So therefore, there is no rule that the firm can work only for the 7 years. Only partner can work for the engagement partner can work for the 7 years, and next 5 years he cannot come in. Right. So shall we finish the other question as well? Then we'll go for an interval and then we'll go for the rest of the 2 questions, right? So I hope that otherwise you are tired. I know that now you are continuously listening for the 2 hours plus 10 minutes. I'm also continuously talking 2 hours and 10 minutes. Right. Right. So let's go into question number 4. One of the very good question, please understand. One of the very good question, please understand audit quality management. Right? What examiner is telling. Most of you would have gone wrong here. I'm sure. Oh, some of you would have not understood the question itself. Explain any 3 elements of the audit quality framework that are risk in the engagement and how each element contribute to the overall audit quality for 5 marks. All right. The second question, explain how firm system of quality management should respond to 2 of the risk or deficiencies identified in the scenario, right? By referring to the relevant components of SLAS QM1 for 5 marks. Students, now if you have watched the webinar on the quality management, not quality management, I don't see a webinar is there. Audit quality control, the previous standard, there was a webinar as well. Students, now, first of all, you need to be aware. The Sri Lanka standard on quality management new standards have now been implemented in Sri Lanka, right? And those are effective in your CL1 examination from the last batch. But your study text contain the previous standard of Sri Lanka standard on quality control 1, SSQZ 1. So therefore, I don't know how many of you are aware that the Sri Lanka issued another supplementary study text in the last batch. I don't know how many of you are aware of that, right? Supplementary material for your study text. The previous study text contain the old standard is not applicable now. Now applicable the SLAs QM1 and 2. Actually, this I'm involving in our firm of implementing the SLAs QM1 and 2. I can share some of my personal experience, how these are being implemented, how challenging if the time permits today. But I don't know whether if I will get a time or not, because those are important. Examiner will get those practical application difficulties, and those will be tested in your examination. So basically, this supplementary material contains the recent changes what happened in your syllabus. So one of the changes agreed upon procedure was changed. What is done, the previous study text content is wrong. So now this should be the new content. All right. And this is one of the change. I'm telling you for I know that most of you are not aware of this one. This is one change. And the second change, Sri Lanka standard on quality management 1 and 2 standards. So this is a new standard that you should aware. If you have not read this new standard, please go and read, because content of the previous study text is not the latest knowledge. Because when it comes to your examination, you have to have the latest knowledge, not the old knowledge, right? If you are a student who is repeatedly doing the CL1 paper, you should be aware of these changes. If not, you will lose the marks at the examination. This is the second change, right? And we'll go down. Another one is SLAS 220 revised connected to the audit quality is another change, right? And changes to the Code of Ethics of Sri Lanka. Code of Ethics 2023 also issued. Previous version is 2020 version. That is what actually your study text content 2016 version, right? Now the two versions thereafter it has come 2020 and 2023. The changes for the 2023 version has been given in the supplementary material. I think this would be much important information for you all of most, because most of you would not be aware that there is a supplementary material like this issued by Sri Lanka for the changes which are effective from the last batch, right? So therefore, audit quality management students, audit quality management which you are going talking here is one of the recent change that you should aware, right? And you need to have a comprehensive and the solid knowledge with regard to the SLAs QM1 and 2, because it is again a hot topic in the examination. I told you there are hot topic in the exam. Quality management is going to be another important hot topic where the examiner is very, say the paper setter of your examination paper or the panel of the paper setting, I don't know. I believe that. So they are also coming from the practicing or a practical auditing application perspective, and paper is set from the practical application perspective. If you are looking at that kind of an aspect, definitely SLAS QM1 and 2 will be tested in your exam. So therefore, everyone, similar like assurance engagement, like sustainable reporting, which I mentioned previously, audit quality management 1 and 2 also should be seen properly, right? Okay. So now when you are learning the audit quality management students, it's very crucial for you to remember there are one principle here when you are learning this audit quality management. So audit quality management, we look at, say, would say KPMG, right? So KPMG is a firm. So quality is generally applied for the quality at firm level. Because audit firm provide many services. For an example, say audit, taxation, advisory, consultancy, right? There are various services that are provided by the audit firm. All the audit firm services are subject to a quality mechanism. So therefore, the quality is measured at the firm level, right? The firm level quality we apply Sri Lanka's standard quality management one, right? And KPMG, inside of the KPMG, there is a one audit. That audit, let's say John Keel's Holding audit is done by engagement team. Audit of John Keel's Holding is one of the assignment that is done by KPMG. For that, we call this is as engagement level. We call as engagement level, and we call engagement level quality. So therefore, you need to have a very clear-cut idea. The quality is measured at the firm level as well as the quality is measured at the engagement level. This is very clear, solid understanding must be there for these two. If you make a mistake there, itself the story finished. When it comes to engagement level, the applicable for audit mean SLA US 220 is applicable for engagement level quality. It is a subversion of the SLSQM1. And beyond that, students, if you look at the broader perspective, the much bigger perspective of the audit quality, including all audit firms in Sri Lanka as a network and as a profession, we have a framework. We have something called framework for audit quality, right? So therefore, all these three guidelines must be properly known by you in order to answer any examination question coming from the audit quality management students, right? So having said that, so let us start the discussion now and see what the examiner's expectation with the audit quality management. The first question it is asking, explain any three elements of the audit quality framework that are at risk in the engagement. In this engagement, how many of you notice this one? How many of you notice this one? Examiner specifically asking what? Engagement level quality concern. Right? If this examination question, the examiner is asking the engagement level quality concern, how many of you identified that? Right? The second question it is asked, explain how the firm system of quality management should respond to the risk of deficiencies identified in the scenario. Quality issues at firm level quality issues. I don't know, students, how many of you figure out these differences of the examiner's expectation of these two questions, right? The engagement level and the firm level. And first question the examiner is asking, explain any three elements of the audit quality framework. Three elements of the audit quality framework that are risk at the engagement level. So that means when the examiner is asking the quality concern at the three quality concerns at the engagement level. But there is a small dispute in this question. Even when I was getting ready for the today's discussion, I inquired from the CA Sri Lanka because I'm not involved in the part of the setting of the paper on the answer. This is independently done by another panel. So therefore, there was a inquiry for me to give the more clarity to you all. Then there's a question here. So explain the three elements of the audit quality framework, right? So now the examiner expects you to write the engagement quality concern. Engagement level quality concern that you have identified. Now that has to be connected to the elements of the quality management, right? When you are talking about the elements of the quality management, SLSQM1 talking about the system of quality management. So that has 8 sub-elements, right? So I hope that you can remember that has 8 sub-elements. So we have to link into that sub-elements. Oh, we have another thing called framework for audit quality that we have learned, right? Whether obviously the one part of the question is clear, you have to identify the engagement level quality concern, but you have to link into the elements. Element you are linking into the 8 elements of the SLSQM, or you are linking into the 5 elements in the framework for audit quality. One other thing. So looks like it is mentioned audit quality framework, but if you go through the entire questions here, you will realize examiner's expectation for you to link into the system of quality management of the SLSQM, but that is not reflected because of this wording. But so therefore, the examiner in this particular scenarios, I checked with the examiner. So even if you are linked with the SQM, or even if you are linked with the quality framework, like input, process, can you remember that the quality framework has 5 elements: input, process, output, contextual factors, and interaction between the stakeholders of financial reporting. Can you remember there are 5? And also system of quality management, there is governance and the leadership, right? Risk assessment, likewise monitoring, resources, and you know that, right? These elements. So whether you can link into that. So both are accepted as correct answers, right? This would have been much better. It is mentioned 3 elements of the systems of the quality management. It would have been much clear, but doesn't matter audit quality framework also. So both the answers will be accepted. I hope that you are clear, right? So don't keep any doubt or over there. So now, but the purpose here, students, is for you to identify the engagement level quality concern and give the responses for the firm level quality concern. But I'm pretty sure the most of you would have not most of you would have not identified the engagement level and the firm level concerns, right? I'm sure that you would have gone wrong in that identification. Please remember that engagement quality concerns, especially at the firm level and the engagement level, must be separately identified, right? So now we'll read the question. The examiner is asking, you are a real-time quality reviewer within your firm system of quality management implemented on SLSQM 1 and 2. While monitoring a high-risk audit engagement in progress, you identify the following concerns, right? Number 1, audit team is understaffed. Of course, problem, right? Audit team is understaffed and include the junior members with minimal experience. This is definitely an engagement level issue, right? Because understaff include junior members with a minimal experience, engagement level, audit engagement level, audit team, mean engagement level, right? Obviously, it is connected to the which element of the quality management? Resources. Agree? Simple. There is a limited supervision and the inadequate documentation of a significant audit judgment. Limited supervision of the inadequate documentation coming under what? Obviously, it is again coming at the engagement level, because review is taking place, supervision is taking place at the engagement level, not the firm level. So this is we call as engagement performance. Can you remember? Now, if you don't have an idea of the element of the system of audit quality management, is going to be a problem. Huh? So what are the elements of SLSQM1? The firm risk assessment process, governance and leadership, relevant ethical requirements, acceptance and continuous, engagement performance, resources, information and communication, monitoring and remedial process. So these are the 2 things we have already identified at the engagement level. And then engagement partner is preparing to sign off without reviewing the final analytical review. Engagement partner, can he sign off without reviewing the final ARP? Can you do? No. No, it's not possible. He has to see So now say I'm signing a lot of audit reports on a daily basis. I'm signing off from the audit. Final ARP I will see. Sometime ARP will be prepared separately. Sometime in the accounts itself I will do that. Because it's my duty as a signing engagement partner. I have to do that. If I don't do, say now for an annually, say I'm signing a 250, around 250 audit reports for the year. All 250 I have to do. It's not that I can exclude even one company. It's my duty. Where it is mentioned, auditing standard, where it is monitored, quality management standard. The engagement partner is preparing to sign off without reviewing the right final analytical review procedure. Again, this also students the engagement level issue, right? And that is also getting connected to the engagement performance as well as the leadership. Engagement partner is the leader of the engagement. He has to be an example to others. He has to do the things right in a proper manner. So leadership is a question, right? Engagement level. So these three issues are from the engagement level connecting to these three elements. Simple. But if you don't understand the examiner's expectation, that's the problem. And a recent internal review also found that the audit documentation practice vary across the teams and partner evaluation do not include quality indicators. It is students a firm level, not the individual level, firm level. The audit documentation, audit to audit differs. Partner evaluation does not include, do not include into the quality indicators. It's a firm level matter. You have to imagine an audit firm. Now I am in the office as of now, right? In this firm, separate audit division is there, tax division is there, the advisory division is there, separate divisions are there, right? Audit division, there are 4 partners in this firm. So out of these 4 partners, audit division itself, so 4 engagement partners are there. Partner to partner, there can't be changes. Judgment can be changed, but the process should be same. Say one partner, there are 10 audits at a time. There are 10 directors, 10 managers will say. So if documentation of 10 managers can't be 10 ways, it has to be one way. So that's a firm level issue, right? It's not a something that in engagement level issue. And the next one, the firm lacks an integrated technology platform. The firm lacks an integrated technology platform to track the real-time engagement progress, right? Real-time engagement progress in quality alerts. Again, this is right. This is a firm level issue. This is a firm level issue. The firm lacks an integrated technology platform. Firm level issue under resources. And this is the firm level. This is engagement level issue in the leadership, right? Governance and leadership. So you can see, student, all 5 issues are identified: engagement level and the firm level, linking into the sub-elements of the sub-element of the quality management framework or a quality system of quality management. So this kind of an analysis is required to be done, student, because at the examination, please remember that the examiner will definitely, right? Examiner will definitely ask a practical case scenario for you to identify. So I'm requesting all of you, since audit quality management is going to be a hot topic in your examination, at least recent 5 past papers of audit quality management should be watched or should be seen, right? At one point. At one point, you should do all 5. Then only you will realize, okay, this kind of an expectation is there from the examiner with regard to the quality management. If you don't do, you will not be able to deliver an answer at the exam. Right, part A is the examiner is asking the 3 elements of the audit quality framework that are risking the engagement situation. Now I identified and these 3 issues, and those are with the element and how each element contribute to the overall audit quality. Of course, if you don't have the proper staff, obviously you cannot carry out the works as per the standard, and also there would be possible misstatement which goes as undetected. And limited supervision and inadequate documentation mean you can't make proper judgments if you don't have the supervision. and also the documentation. An engagement partner is preparing to sign off, so that is unethical, right? Leadership problem. And if you, when you don't have this one, so what will happen? Obviously, audit opinion would go wrong, and that will be the answer for part A. Part B, explain how the firm system of quality management should respond to the two of the risk or deficiencies identified in the scenario by relevant to the relevant components. Explain how the firm system of quality management should respond to the two of the risk of deficiencies identified in the scenario. So we have identified the two issues at the firm level. Now, how you should correct these things, the examiner is asking. So you have an issue of the audit documentation practices vary across the team, and partner evaluation is do not include the quality indicators. If that is vary, right, in audit documentation practices, so what you are doing is or train the people, right? Think you don't have to have the much theoretical knowledge, but you can think and develop an answer. Audit documentation vary among the team. What you can do. Basically, you can train the people to do like that, right? Training is so important, and if they don't comply, take some action. And also the partner evaluation can be included with the performance evaluation. What corrective action mean? Always when there's a deficiency, corrective measurement is other side of the deficiency. Very simple. If you have the common sense at the exam, you will pass. But even to use the common sense, you have to have a stressless mind. Huh? Right. Next one is a technology platform. Obviously, you have to do what? You have to invest in the technology. If you don't have the audit software nowadays in an audit firm, it's a big problem. You can't work in a manual approach by taking all box files and taking to this level box files. So you have to have a technology. Much easier. So working in a dashboard, sending reminders, linking to the emails. How easy audit software. So there should be a technology for the investment for that. So that's the corrective measures that can be taken. Right. So question number 4 answer, just have a look on that. Part A. It says the sufficient time and resources and engagement, performance, and limited supervision and leadership and ethics. Also, this can be taken as engagement performance as well, students. So if required, this engagement performance taken here as well. That's correct. So adequate and skilled resources ensure audit procedures are executed correctly and efficiently. Lack of this undermine the reliability and increase the engagement risk. High quality engagement require a strong supervision and well-documented judgment to support the audit conclusion. Strong ethical leadership drives accountability and promote the culture of the diligence and professional skepticism. Those are beautiful writing. If the substance is there, your answer will be accepted. And what is the responses can be done for inconsistent documentation across the teams? It get connect to the engagement performance. So implementing standardized documentation, train the engagement teams, use the technology to enforce the through the engagement software or workflow platform, monitor and remediate deviation through the regular inspection. You can think and write this one. Those are not in the theory note. Huh? Those are not in theory, so you have to think and develop for the given scenario. And the next one is partner not linked to the audit quality. So partner evaluation not linked to the audit quality. And so you can revise the partner performance framework to include that thing and incorporate this into the promotion and review decision. And the last one, lack of technology to the support quality monitoring. Invest in audit tools and enable real-time oversight and data-driven risk alert, and have a budget allocation technology development, and those kind of things can be done. Right, students. So we have finished the short scenarios, and now time is almost 3 hours. Sir, yes. So we have devoted 2 hours plus 40 minutes on continuously. I was talking and you were listening. So we have another 2 more question large case scenarios. We'll take about 10 minutes break. So now time is 10:38. So we will meet at 10:55, 15 minutes. Because you have to have a peaceful mind for you to concentrate. Next two questions also important. So let's say 10 minutes. So 10:50, 50 to 55 within that time, we will continue the next two questions. And also while I'm discussing, if you have any other questions also, just put it to me. I will answer, right? So all are asking how this supplementary material is available in the CA Sri Lanka website. Or otherwise, Mr. Aruna is here from the education divisions who can guide where the document is available. It's available in the CA Sri Lanka website, if I'm not mistaken. If not, should be available in the CA Sri Lanka website. Right, let's take a 10 minutes break. Right. The strong back in the discussion. So see the commitment of all of our students. So they want really to stay in the session and finish the rest as well. So I appreciate that. Even the time is now 11 o'clock. So maybe tomorrow will be working day for you all, some of you. Some of you may be at study leave sometime. Right. So students, now first of all, let me to explain one point. I saw some of the students have been continuously asking of the taxation services for a PLC. The question number 5 we discussed of Silicon PLC. So I hope that you can remember taxation services. Yes, it's create a self-review threat. If you provide the taxation services for the audit client, self-review threat is arising. There are 4 situations given in the study text. I hope that you can remember. If I go to the particular note now, right? I'm in this your study text page number 604, CL1. So this is under the self-review threat. There are 4 type of services tax. Under the tax, there are 4 services. One is tax return preparation, tax calculation, tax planning, and other tax advisory services, and assistant in the tax resolution for tax dispute. So your treatment will differ based on the one of the kind of a tax service. Now, generally, tax return preparation it generally doesn't create a much threat, can be provided. But tax calculation for the preparing the accounting increase generally is okay. But for a PLCs, it is not recommended because threat is high. Tax planning and other tax advisory services may be acceptable in the circumstances. So because so now, for example, the question that we were talking here is the foreign expansion projects. It doesn't really create the isn't connected to the financial statement by financial statement and doesn't connected to the accounting treatment of the company. Then it is acceptable. But if it creates some accounting treatment kind of a things and we are creating and it impacts the material impact, then it is not acceptable. So in this given scenario, kind of foreign expansion strategy, so therefore looks like it is an acceptable situation. And the assistant in the tax resolution, tax dispute, also the same explanation is given. You can see all 4 elaborated here in detail, right? So I just want to highlight with the note. So then you have a very clear picture of the taxation services. Right, students? So 2 weeks before the exam, with more energy and more courage. So I hope that you are putting your maximum effort to get through the examination this time, because I used to tell you students that you have to find your own reasons why you need to study, because you want to become a chartered accountant one day, and all sacrification, all the things that you have done, your family has done, your parents have done, all will be crystallized in a day that when you are going to the BMICH to get your membership with your parents, with your loved ones. If you are going to the BMICH and you get stand and give an oath that you are as a chartered accountant, you will act according to the code of ethics and all that. When you give that, you are going to be you are going to come to a small community in the world who are highly professionally qualified in the accountancy field. So everything is going to be changed on that day, right? And just imagine the day that you will take a very good photo, beautiful photo, or some good photo, and then you will shine your social media, and everyone will come to know you are a chartered accountant. That is the satisfaction that you can get in generally. But more than that, your life is going to be changed on that day. And sometime you would have done a real hard work in audit firm with a low salary and training, lot of sacrification. Sometimes there would have been the days that you have worked 24 hours. There would have been a days that you didn't have money to even to have your lunch, dinner. So there would have been the dates like that. But still, all these sacrifications are going to be crystallized in a day where when the return comes, it will be multiplied in 1,000 times and will come. That is experienced by myself and also by many. So therefore, hold on. My request is hold on till that date and try to achieve that date. as soon as possible. And don't give up because of the temporary matters, because of the short-term matters. Don't give up this dream. And this dream cannot be achieved by all, but those who are highly determined in achieving this will definitely be benefited in future, right? And it's not just, this is not a just wording I'm telling student for a motivation, but this is the fact in life, right? Most of our students who are following the professional accountancy. Right. Okay. Wherever the background, wherever you are coming from, whatever the background you are in, but once you become qualified, all are getting equal and all are chartered accountants. Packages are very high and the recognition status, everything is different. Everything is different, students. So if I go back in my life back into the 20 years back, to not say 15 years back, soon after my A level, what I was doing and what was my thinking and people whom I associated and how is my background, and today what is my background is like a sky and earth. It's a big difference has happened. But all these what I'm enjoying today, all these facilities, status, say all the things that I have, mental satisfaction, and the position designations in the firms and everything, right? Everything is depend on one qualification. If that is not there, if that would have been there, I would have been a different character to today. Not so many things that I have today would not be there. So that is my experience. I'm telling students, it doesn't matter the sleepless night that you are sacrificing today. Believe me, that sleepless night will definitely give you a beautiful world in one day. That will surely will happen. Right. Right. Okay. Question number 6 coming into the question number 6. We are coming into the risk assessment, a general risk assessment. Of course, these kind of questions are very common and not a difficult question, but general risk assessment is having a large content of information. As I told students, this mock paper, don't expect as it is in the final paper. Sometimes there will be more questions, right? More information than this when it comes to the final paper, right? So we'll look at the first part of the question. Examiner is asking from you, assess the 3 significant risks of material misstatement to be focused for the audit of Green Holding PLC for the year ended 31st March 2025 for 5 marks. Assess 3 significant risks of material misstatement audit risk to be focused for the Green Holding PLC for the year ended 31st March 2020. So it's kind of it's asking the examiner audit risk, or we call as risk of material misstatement. Straightforward, a very traditional examination question where everyone can do. And the next one is the explain 3 risk assessment procedures the auditor of Green PLC shall perform on related party transaction for a 5 marks. Some of the students would have not noticed this related party transaction wording. You would have just written the audit procedures for the risk that you identified. So the examiner is asking the risk assessment procedures, right? Risk assessment procedures, specific question, right? Chapter 14 of your syllabus is so crucial, audit review and finalization. Under the audit evidence, you must remember everything under the chapter 14, subsequent event, RPT, accounting estimates and the going concern. These 4 shall remember, even word to word you should remember on RPT. Third questions, the examiner is asking outline for 5 marks. For preventive measures, the Green Holding PLC should implement to mitigate future cybersecurity threats in the IT system. So this is from a digital environment chapter. This is from the digital environment chapter. Right? Digital environment chapter. Outline 4 preventive measures the Green Holding PLC should implement to mitigate the future cybersecurity threat. Straightforward, a theory question. Right, the first one we'll look at read the question to address the part A, part B and C is a theoretical answers, but part A is the main questions in terms of identifying the risk. Let's see, identifying the risk, and it doesn't really ask the examiner whether at the finance statement level of assertion level. So therefore, you can write any kind of risk in the given scenario. We'll read the question careful manner to identify the risk of material misstatement. What do you mean by risk of material misstatement, students? The areas that could go wrong in the financial statement, areas that could deviate from the accounting standard application. Green Holding PLC. This is a PLC. PLC mean you know that the auditor's concern is higher. It's a diversified Sri Lankan conglomerate listed company. It operates across real estate development. The nature of the business is so crucial. You have to see the nature of the business and getting into the system. The nature of the business, the real estate development, hospitality, operating luxury resorts along the southern coast, and IT services, right? It across real estate development, hospitality, IT services, including digital payment platform and cloud hosting solution. The company is into the three business lines. One is real estate development, other one is hospitality, other one is IT services. The company is chaired by Mr. Kitsiri Pereira, a prominent businessman with a 28% of equity stake in the company. 28% person only chair in the company. Making him the largest individual shareholder because of a PLC, largest individual shareholder. He is known to have a significant influence. He is known to have a significant influence over the board decisions and has a strong personality that often override standard governance procedures. By looking at this paragraph, what do you think the financial statement impact? Another thing, students, when you look at the risk assessment question, I used to tell to students, so when you look at this kind of a risk assessment question, please make a note. Otherwise, you will go wrong in your thinking pattern. For an example, I used to say when you are looking at the risk assessment question, you just put a note. I will look at only the financial statement impacts. Right? This kind of a note is written top is much better. Then always you work on that objective. Right, individual shareholder, he is known to have a significant influence. So what do you feel that by looking at this? So what kind of risk that you can see in this statement, student? Please answer. What kind of? Yes, Rasika's answer is correct. It's not a business risk. It is a management override of control. Management override of control. So dominating leadership of chairman is possible that overriding the control set by the governance party itself, right? There's a possibility. Override word is also there. So management override of control. As we learn in the fraud standard, it's create a fraud risk always, right? As per syllabus 240, so it creates always a fraud risk, students, right? See how we are identifying the risk. Okay, next one. In the financial year end at 31st March 2025, Green reported a 30% increase in net profit, largely attributed at fair value gain on investment property and intra-group transaction. Right. The group CFO is known for adopting aggressive accounting treatment to meet the performance target. Group CFO is known to have been identified that he is in aggressive accounting treatment and to meet the performance target. he is highly motivated with the targets in good or bad way. So that indicates what, student? That indicates there is a possible fraud risk factor. So there is a fraud risk factor, right? There's a fraud risk factor. This is a kind of aggressive accounting treatments mean to meet the performance target mean. So there is a fraud risk factor coming here, right? There's a pressure, there's an incentive. So therefore, there's an aggressive accounting treatments are adapted. Generally, fraud risk factor is coming into the revenue recognition. So can you remember, students, we learned that there's a rebuttable presumption. There's a rebuttable presumption for the revenue recognition. There is a rebuttable presumption for the revenue recognition always. That include the revenue recognition is always subject to fraud risk. See now this, I'm identifying all, but let's see that how many procedures that you will identify. The purchases and revaluation of property. The group acquired a prime commercial property in Colombo 7 in December 24. We are talking about the 31st March 2025, the 3 months before the financial year. For LKR 3.2 billion. It was immediately reclassified as investment property and revalued at 5 billion by the valuer connected to the chairman. The valuation significantly exceeded the average market rate. So obviously, student, this is wrong, because when you purchase in the 7th December 2024, when it comes to the 4 months thereafter, the fair value increased from 3.2 to 5 billion. Actually, I'm going through issue these days like this in one of the company. So they have done intercompany purchase of the land. And immediate after purchase, they have revalued by 100%. At the time of the sale is made, it has to be at the fair value. Fair value cannot be double within 4 months, right? Here is also the similar case. So obviously there's a risk of valuation, right? Valuation of investment property, especially. Valuation of investment property of number 3 is going to become a risk factor because of the significance, and also the judgments involved. Then, related party lease agreement. One of the green resorts signed a 10-year lease agreement with Oceanic Leisure Private Limited, a private entity owned by the chairman's brother. The lease terms are not in line with the market benchmark and board approval was not properly documented. Obviously, there is no requirement that you can't engage this kind of transaction, but those may not be at the arm's length basis. But the fact is, you have to properly disclose these things as per case 24. So therefore, number 4, the related party transaction will become the significant risk in the given scenario. An IT subsidiary restructuring a group sold 40% of its cloud-based IT subsidiary to a foreign venture capitalist. A fair value gain of rupees 800 million was recognized. 800 million was recognized based on the internally prepared valuation model. So of course, the fair value gain of 800 million is going to be a challenging, students, because that is an internally prepared valuation. That's not may be correct, but if we're accepting you, so you have to consider as a risk. Cybersecurity breach. In February 2025, the hospitality division suffered a ransomware attack. Ransomware malware, can you remember? Ransomware malware, cybersecurity threat, resulting in a 3-day disruption and partial data loss from its central booking system. The company only had the basic antivirus protection and backups were not effectively maintained. So that's not directly identified risk of material misstatement. Right. So the first question is assess the 3 significant risks. Already identified 5. Out of 5, you can write 3. Management override of control, fraud risk, valuation of IP, RPT, and fair value gain. Explain 3 risk assessment procedures the auditorship of Green PLC shall perform on RPT. On related party transaction, what kind of risk assessment procedures can be done? It's very simply given in your theory note, right? I will show you in the study text number 1, chapter 14 is clearly given. It's a direct theory. So what kind of risk assessment procedures can be performed? You know that there are, if you look at the general term, there are 4 risk assessment procedures. You know, right? Observation, inspection. Can remember this thing, right? Inquiry, observation, inspection, and the ARP. These are the 4 general risk assessment procedures. But when it comes to RPT, there are separate risk assessment procedures given in the theory note or the study text. What those? So yes, inquiry of the significant RPT changes and all that is number 1, right? And it says the reviewing the board minutes and looking at the subsequent positions and all sorts another one. And also maintaining alert for the evidences and having a discussion, sharing the information among the engagement team with regard to the related party transactions and all that, or including audit team discussion. There is a separate list given in the theory note. Straightforward theory question. And the next one, outline 4 preventive measures to the green holding PLC should implement to the mitigate the future cybersecurity threat. Again, a straightforward theory. So if you go to the cybersecurity auditing in a digital environment chapter, 1-to-1 wording you shall remember. There's a table given. One side cybersecurity threat, other one is mitigating control. Examine number 1, threat was ransomware, malware. So what are the controls to be taken is directly given. I'll show you that, then easy for you all. So if you go to the study text volume 1, this is the study text volume 1. Sorry. Right. So if you go to the audit review and finalization chapter 14, remember this is very mandatory to be known. Audit review and finalization. So everyone should see that, because there is a possibility the very high number of marks will be tested at the examination. Right. So this is the chapter 14. Number 1, but these 4 must be known. So related party transaction. And if you really go there, risk assessment procedures are given straightforward. Assessment and identification of the risk. These are the risk assessment procedures. All are listed here. So you are supposed to write on that. Another one also I will show in the direct chapter of digital auditing chapter. This table must be known by you all. That's what I'm going to show this one. Digital environment. So this is the chapter 15, auditing digital environment. This table. So I used to say that to take a printout of this table and paste in the where you study, because it's very much crucial as far as the examination is concerned. So see cybersecurity risk involved here, table, and the mitigating control. The examiner is directly asking this table. Ransomware and malware, what can be done? Installation of antivirus and malware, installation of firewall, and raising awareness of staff to be very unusual and solicited email, regular upgrading of operating system, regular upgrading of software, regular backups. Right, answers given by the examiner for the question number 6. So I'm not going to waste the time, but this answer will be available to you all tomorrow. But so management override of control as we added. But remember, when you are writing, remember students, writing has to be much broader than this. So first of all, you have to say the heading. And so when you are writing the risk assessment question, so the 3 things should be there. Heading, copy paste the scenario, copy paste from the scenario, what is the fact, then why you believe it has a risk. So three actually. So I recommend you this part of the information to be divided and write it to 2 points. Then you won't go wrong. Point, information, fact, and why you become that is a risk. So 2 points are coming with heading. And risk of fraud in revenue recognition, valuation of innocent property, RPT may not be properly disclosed, and the determination of fair value of subsidiary, right? But this content is not sufficient in my view. So you have to write in the 2 bullet point. For an example, say management override of control, you have to say, so dominating leadership, the Mr. Kitsiri Pereira can influence on the certain overriding. And how it will become a risk, because if the overriding is taken place, so there is a possibility that the fraud could, or errors, especially fraud, can take place. Right. So part B and 2 answers I'm not going to read because these are exactly from the theory note. And this is also exactly from the theory note. Right. So we'll go to the part D, that is reporting. Reporting question is a good question. Right. The examiner is asking from you, assess the audit manager's view on the dealing this matter in the audit report for the year end at 31st March 2025 for 5 marks audit reporting. What examiner is asking, during the audit of the company for the year end at 31st March 2025, time period as so crucial, management disclosed prior adjustment related to the correction of an error related to the lease accounting from 31st March 2024. It's a good question. The error involved the overstatement of property values of rupees 1.1 billion, which was corrected retroactively in the current year's financial statement. The auditor agrees with the correction and the retrospective restatement. However, the adjustment is material and significantly affect the comparability with prior periods. The audit manager is of the view that this shall be dealt with the auditor's report on the financial statement for the year ended 31st March 2025. Tell me, student, what is the audit report impact of this scenario? Just quickly give me an answer. So what is the audit report impact? Hashini is telling emphasis of matter. What others? Don't know now. If the time is 11:30, some of you are sleeping. Unmodified opinion with an emphasis of matter. No change to the opinion. Unmodified. Impact to the audit report. Examiner doesn't ask impact to the audit opinion. Impact to the audit report. Be careful of the report and the opinion. Two different things. Emphasis of matter. PP included in CAM. Include in CAM. Emphasis of matter. Right, students. Now I'm not very sure whether you have already watched the certain webinars that I have done previously in somewhere in 2021, the COVID period. Some of the webinars were done, but those some are now outdated knowledge, but some are still relevant. Because some of the things have changed now. 2021 to 2025 changes have occurred. When you are watching those webinars, you have to be alert on the changes as well. But one of the webinar which I have done, it mentioned that the audit reporting, you have to adapt a 5-step model. That is not the standard, but I give an introduction to you all that how that 5-step model should be applied when audit reporting decisions are taken. That is for your easy preference. Now, when this kind of a situation is given, the first of all you have to see for the given situation is a misstatement or a scope limitation first. Obviously, it is not a misstatement because it has been correctly addressed, retrospectively correctly addressed, and not a misstatement, not a scope limitation as well. So if this is not scope limitation, not a misstatement, there is no impact to the audit opinion. Audit opinion will only be impacted in a situation where there is a material misstatement or a material scope limitation. Either can be material or material irreversible. So therefore, don't get confused the report and the opinion. Examiner is asking audit report here. Examiner is asking the audit report. So therefore, not opinion. So there is no impact to the audit opinion. That is clear. Then if there is no impact, you have to see whether something which is fundamental and already presented in the financial statement which bring to the attention of the stakeholders. Something fundamental. Or whether this is something audit report, auditor's responsibility or the auditor's scope. Whether it's require another matter. No, that is obviously out. Obviously, this audit report, this kind of an issue is required an attention of the stakeholders because the previous year figures are going to change now. What we reported in the last year is going to be changed. Restated the financial statement, something fundamental. So therefore, the most appropriate answer for this one is giving an emphasis of matter with unmodified opinion with an emphasis of matter paragraph. That will be the answer, right? Qualification, adverse, disclaim out, other matter out, emphasis of matter is the most appropriate. So can someone ask whether can this be a CAM, key audit matter? So what is meant by key audit matter? Key audit matter means, students, we select the certain things out of the matters that are communicated to those charged with governance in auditor's professional judgment. Out of the significant risk, out of the significant management judgment and significant event. If the auditor believes something that is to be communicated to the stakeholder, something that we have already identified as a risk and we have verified and that is now correct. So in that case, can this be identified as a CAM? Yes, in auditor's professional judgment, if this can be identified as a CAM as well, right? But identification is CAM is not a negative thing, right? It is kind of a positive thing. And here the examiner's expectation is matter in this audit report for the year ended 31st March 2025, how it will be presented. The most appropriate in the given situation will be the emphasis of matter. But it can be identified as a key audit matter as well because of this is a PLC. As it mentioned, this is a PLC. You can identify as a CAM as well. So also you have already learned, students, if something is identified as a CAM, also something identified as emphasis of matter, the same matter is coming into the both the points. We won't put it to the same place. But what will happen is we will put as a CAM and give the more prominence over there, right? So that is the maximum answer expected. But so as far as in this question is concerned, since this is something of fundamental, so and also the already presented in the financial statements, emphasis of matter will be the most appropriate answer. Clear? Right. So I'll show the answer, but answer right. Prior adjustment in the auditor's report. Although the auditor agrees with the adjustment and the restated balance, the prior misstatement was material and affect the comparability of the financial statement across the years. Given its significance and it is important to bring the attention of the users by including other matter. This is wrong, student. I told the CA Sri Lanka to correct this one when I see itself because the examiner has given, this is wrong. Other matter can't come here. Emphasis of matter. So the examiner agreed with what I told. So they would have corrected, but this typing has not been corrected. So I will ask the CA Sri Lanka to correct this and share with you all tomorrow. Other matter can't come here. Other matter will come in a situation where auditors something to be communicated, not something in the financial statement. Say the previous audit was done by another auditor. That kind of a situation, other matter can come. So therefore, this answer is wrong. That will be corrected and shared with you all tomorrow, right? Paragraph, I will communicate to the CA Sri Lanka on that. So therefore, other matter won't come here. Emphasis of matter will be the answer. So this will be corrected and sent tomorrow. Right. So we go to the last question. So time is 11:30. Still, you all are very active. I'm happy that. Right. So do you have any questions over there? No questions. All are very tired. Tomorrow you have the work also. You also have the work, right? I'm still at office. But before near the examination, we have to have a double the courage. Would say like double the courage and double the commitment and double everything. So we being lecturers, we also like that. So you also should be like that. So commitment is not a word, student. I used to tell in my tagline always, commitment is not a word, not tagline. I mean, just in a statement for the students, commitment is not a word. Sometimes students, so some people say, okay, I will start the work from tomorrow, clean my room and I will get ready and I will do it properly. By word, but only just thinking, but nothing will be practically implemented. Say in this live class, some of you would have joined at 8 o'clock to stay for the 4 hours continuously or 5 hours continuously and complete the mock paper. But how many of you were able to stay? At least you are being happy now. You should be happy that you have that the commitment and the courage and never giving up attitude that of getting somehow passing the exam. Commitment is not a word. It has to be practically implemented. It has to be shown by action. You have to be an example to others and how commitment is given for the situation. Right? Even a working environment, you have to be like that. And the studies should be much more. Doesn't matter you being selfish for these days. Doesn't matter. Because why you are being selfish today? For what? To maybe you will give more benefit to the society and others surrounding you once you become qualified. So therefore doesn't matter. So prioritize the studies during the next 2 weeks time as much as possible. I'm not telling for you to be selfish in the life, but I'm telling you to be selfish in the examination period, because that is not a selfish actually, because the results of that is going to be enjoyed by not only you, but so many others. Now say when I was doing my chartered final examination, I had to do a lot of sacrification. And I say I was selfish and I was doing only my work. I didn't do any other thing. I didn't go to the funeral house. I didn't go to other weddings and all that at that period. Okay, I would have been labeled as a selfish person those days at university also. But today, because of that selfishness and the sacrification at that time, for a short time, only examination period, is giving a much better benefit to the society by now. See, the things are getting changed. See, things are interpreted in a different manner. Right, question number 7. The examiner is asking what? It's not a difficult question. We will quickly finish it off. The examiner is asking, explain the 3 steps. Explain the 3 steps the auditor should take to evaluate the work of management expert for 5 marks. So explain the 3 steps the auditor should take to evaluate the work of the management expert. Again, a theoretical question. A management expert, what kind of thing auditor should do? Actually, auditor should look at the expert technical competence, right? Qualifications. And how he has done that one, what are the assumption and data used. So those things must be evaluated. We'll discuss. And explain how you would obtain audit evidence covering valuation and existence assertion related to the year-end inventory balance, especially for the new fabric blend. Outline action verb for 5 marks. Remember this action verb. Outline the procedures the auditor shall perform regarding the customer bankruptcy event that occurred after the year-end. Procedures the auditor shall perform regarding the bankruptcy event that occurred after the year-end. Last one, assess any impact on the auditor's report on the disclosure of going concern matter on the financial statement for the year ended 2025. Remember, without going concern knowledge, you can't go to the exam on 29th. Going concern reporting, there are 4 circumstances. All must remember properly. Right, we'll read the question. This is a private limited. So we have planned to finish at 11:30, starting at 11:30. Plan the finish mean at the examination. If you attended the last question, you should finish this as 11:30. So time management is so crucial. So you have to follow properly. Tilak Textile Private Limited. This is a private limited, not a PLC. It's a medium-sized garment manufacturing company. This is a garment. Nature of the business is important in Kurunegala. Specialized in export to, it's an export company for the European markets. The company produces high-end fabric blends and finished garments. They are to the garment product and operates a large warehouse and production facility. It is owned by the Tilak family and has been in operation over the 30 years now. It's a private family-based business and into the garment industry. The audit for the year ended 31st March 2025 is currently underway. 31st March 2025. The following issues have arisen during the course of the engagement. Right. So inventory valuation. As of 31st March 2025, the company hold LKR 1.4 billion in inventory, including a newly developed fabric blend, which has no established market price. So that means there's a newly produced stock which does not have a market price yet. So if you have a market price, always you can check the NRV with the subsequent selling invoices. But in this case, there's no established market price as of now. Management engaged a material science consultant to value the fabric, claiming it holds the high value based on the fiber strength and global demand projections. Material science consultants, so there are separate professionals to support in the garment industry. So inventory valuation is a concern, students, here, because there's a newly developed fabric stock, but no market value. So valuation is going to be so crucial because cost to NRV, whichever is lower, should be valued. But so you will not be able to identify the NRV in the given scenario. Right. Then the second para is the auditor has limited technical knowledge to assess the valuation methodology of the new fabric. We don't know because we are not expert. Management has provided a valuation report prepared by the external consultant who hold a PhD in textile engineering. So management expert has been used, not the auditor's expert, management expert, because this particular expert is engaged by whom? Not by the auditor, but engaged by the, right, engaged by the management. So therefore, it is called as a management expert. The next one is says that the post-balance sheet events. On 1st June 2025, the company largest European customer, so date is 1st June 2025, but we are looking at the 31st March 2025 year end. As of 31st March 2025, receivable of 120 million were due from the customer and were previously considered as fully recoverable. The audit report is 12 June. So what has happened? Now incident is happening 1st June 2025 and the signing date was yesterday. Well, today, right? Today, 12 June. Examiner is superb. Right. So now incident is happening 11 days before the signing date. Now what are we going to do? Going concern, the company's work, company has a working capital issue worsened by a potential loss for its key export customer. Management forecasts indicate potential liquidity shortfalls by the December 25 unless the new orders are secured and bank funding is obtained. The directors have included a going concern disclosure in the notes of the finance statement, but the outcome of the new funding discussion is still uncertain. Right. So now we'll see one by one. Explain 3 steps the auditor should take to evaluate the work of management expert. What we learn under the SLAS 600 series, use of auditor's expert, and also SLAS 500. SLAS 500 we talk about the management expert. So if the management expert is used to evaluate the management expert, what shall we do? It is done by somebody who has a PhD in the textile engineering. So he's an expert. We don't know the textile engineering or whatever that. Then what you should do. So first of all, we have to evaluate the who is this consultant, what is his qualification, expertise, capabilities, experience. That has to be seen first. The second, you get this report and see the method that they have adopted, data, assumption, those reasonables, if required. So you also can challenge, like you can study, right, how it has been done, like how the cost has been built up, so that you also can study. So these kind of procedures can be performed, right? The second one, explain. Our first one, I will show the answer. See, assess the competence. Assess the competence and capabilities and objectivity of the expert by verifying the consultant's competence, experience, and objectivity. Understand the work of the expert, gain an understanding of the method, assumption, data used in the evaluation. Evaluate whether the expert report is relevant and consistent with the auditor's knowledge of the entity. Evaluate the appropriateness of the expert work as an audit evidence. Consider whether the expert conclusions are reasonable and clearly support management valuation. Reconcile the valuation report with the amounts recognized in the financial statement. Document the reliance on the expert and how the auditor satisfied themselves about the expert's credibility. Part B, how you would obtain audit evidence covering the valuation and existence assertion of the year-end inventory balance. So you have existence, obviously you know existence, how to verify, and valuation. So existence, you have to attend to the physical verification as an observer. That's the simple answer, right? You attend to the physical verification as an observer, and if required, you can do a test count. And in terms of valuation, what can be done? Obviously, the cost, how the cost is calculated, and what is the costing method with the FIFO weighted average cost is method, that you can check it, and how the cost has been built up, that you can check it. But if you write an answer, NRV testing, is that correct? No. Here there is no NRV. Therefore, you check your answer whether have you written the NRV testing for this valuation. Then I have to say that you have not written the paper in the conscious mind. NRV cannot be done. Right? Okay, conscious mind is so crucial. I don't know now whether you have a conscious mind for after 4 hours of listening to my voice. Right. Then here, audit evidence inventory. Review costing methods applied. Valuation. And use the expert work performed by the expert and test the cost build up. And attend to observe the year-end count for the existent. Perform the test count. And inspect the new fabric blend physically and confirm proper labeling, location, and storage, like a physical verification. Doing on that. Right, coming into the last 2 questions. Outline the procedures the auditor shall perform. Outline the procedures that the auditor shall perform regarding the customer bankruptcy event that occurred after the year end, before the auditor's report was signed. So procedure the auditor shall perform regarding the customer bankruptcy incident. So what procedure you will do for this? Post balance sheet event. So event after the reporting date. So what procedures you have to do? The first of all, you have to gather the evidences with regard to this particular incident, right? Whether actually this kind of things has happened, what source documents are there, you have to check it. The secondly, you have to see, student, whether this is an adjusting event or an unadjusting event as per LKS 10. All right. If it is looks like this is an adjusting event, right? Adjusting event. So then you have to ask from the management, look here management, you amend the financial statement. If they don't amend the financial statement, that will impact that will be recognized as a material misstatement and the audit report will be qualified. Clear? So 4 steps is very clear. That is not a difficult question. I believe that you can write it. Right. So the customer bankruptcy on 1st June 2025 is an adjusting event. So I think the first of all, we have to say the gathering evidences, then coming into the identifying event or an adjusting or unadjusting event is much better, as it provides evidence about condition that existed at 31st March 2025 Hence, the impairment on receivable to be recognized in the financial statement. Then you have to say immediately you don't go for a qualification because you have learned, students, in auditing principle, something that you should have done at the last should not be done at first. The auditing is one of the crucial application principle. So audit qualification will be the last resort, last step. But before that, you should tell to the management, look here management, so we have seen this one, please correct that one. If they correct it, no problem. Our audit report will be clear. But if they don't correct, again, remind them to do. But if they don't do, tell to the audit committee. If they also don't agree, finished. Go for impact audit report. Students, now in the examination or learning process, easy for you to say that audit report to be qualified. But in practical my life, most difficult and stressful situation for me is this convincing on the audit qualification to the management. So that is the most toughest fast for audit partner of making presentation, explaining, convincing, making understand them for the audit qualification because they don't agree. There are a lot of repercussion implication when the audit reports are qualified. Banks will not accept. Now recently I had to give audit report on a going concern adverse opinion. And finally it converted to the qualified. But when you give a qualified on going concern, what will happen? No bank will give you a loan. No stakeholder will look at that accounts. So see the impacts of the audit report. It's not practically, it's not easy. If the management does not agree, if this is considered as a material adjustment, the impact on the auditor's report to be considered, most likely it would be a qualified opinion. Last question for the day. Right, this is a highly examinable, students, and almost all the examination of the recent 5 exam, if you take and see, going concern is definitely there. So you need to have a very clear understanding with regard to going concern reporting. There are 4 circumstances we learned with regard to the going concern reporting. It has to be remembered like nothing in your mind. There will be a definite examination question. Assess any impact on the auditor's report on the disclosure of the going concern. Matter on the finance statement for the year ended 31st March 2025 for 5 marks. Assess the impact on the auditor's report on the disclosure of the going concern. Matter on the finance statement for the year ended 31st March 2025. So now impact on the going concern matter. So now students, you need to have a very clear understanding of the going concern, right? So now when management prepare the financial statement and give it to the shareholders, and the shareholders do not trust the management, so therefore, so they appoint a third-party person to come and check this financial statement and give a report. This is what we call so-called external auditing. Right? When this management prepare the financial statement, as per LKS 1, they have to make a fundamental assumption whether the company is going concern or not, whether the company will continue for a foreseeable future. That means whether the company will continue in the business for more than 12 months. So that kind of an assumption, preliminary assumption should be made by the company. Right? So now making this assumption is the responsibility of the management. So now making this assumption, so the management need to look at the indications, or we call as uncertainties. Say the company is making losses, revenue declining likewise. So when the such situations are there, management need to look at the indication and uncertainties. If there are indications of uncertainties in the business, so they have to prepare a management assessment. Management assessment, right? Management assessment, they have to prepare. That is, we call sometimes budgeted finance statement, including the budget. So based on that, the management should coming into a conclusion whether the company is going concern or not going concern. Who should decide? Not by us, but by the company. If they decide the company is not a going concern, then no problem. You have to prepare the financial statement on the liquidity order, where the current asset and the non-current asset and the non-current liabilities will not be there in the company, because we assume that the company will be closed in the next 12 months. So therefore, that is called liquidity order. If that is prepared, no problem. But if the management prepare the going concern basis, then the auditor coming into the scene. Auditor says, look here, management, so you have some issues in the going concern. I need to satisfy myself whether company will can continue for more than 12 months. Then auditor coming into the full scene, check the uncertainties, check the management assessment, then coming into the conclusion. Right? When you are coming into the conclusion, there are 4 circumstances. I'll go to the theory note and show you. It's easy for me. Going concern reporting is the study text is given. Right. I mean, this chapter 14, I told you chapter 14 is so crucial. Audit reporting. These are the 4 circumstances. Scenario 1, page number 420. Scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3, scenario 4. What scenario 1? Going concern assumption appropriate but material uncertainty which is adequately disclosed. Assumption is appropriate in auditor's professional judgment. Then you give unmodified opinion section headed by material uncertainty related to going concern. Then going concern assumption inappropriate but material uncertainty which is not adequately disclosed. Qualified to adverse opinion. Use of going concern assumption inappropriate, adverse opinion. Management willing to make or extend its assessment, qualified or disclaimer of opinion. Right? So now these 4 circumstances should be remembered well with you. So coming back to your examination question, in this particular scenario, what scenario to be addressed? Students, now remember when you are doing these going concern questions, sometime based on the information given, it is conclusive. For an example, the last examination, last past paper, if you look at it, conclusive answer is there. But sometimes it's in between, it's not clear the information, then you have to give all the options. So in this particular scenario, we'll read now what is the position that we can take it. The company is working capital as working capital issue worsened by the potential of the key export customer. There are uncertainties now, right? So now in this diagram, if you really see, so there are uncertainties now, right? Then management forecast indicate the potential liquidity shortfall by December 25 unless new orders are secured in funding is obtained. Now management assessment also they have done. And also they have identified issue. The directors have concluded a going concern disclosure, included a going concern disclosure to the note to the finance statement, but outcome of the new funding discussion is still uncertain. So they have decided, management has decided this as a going concern, and accordingly, disclosures have been made. Right? Management has done now. So examiner is asking from you, analyze the impact on the auditor's report on disclosure of the going concern matter in the financial statement. Now out of that table, so what point that you are going to take it up? First situation, second situation, third situation, fourth situation one coming in. 1, 2, 3. What situation you are going to take up? 1, 2, 3. But definitely 4 won't come because that's not management assessment is not extending story is not there. The first situation, going concern assumption is appropriate, but material uncertainty which is adequately disclosed. Actually, students, you cannot give a conclusion here. There is no sufficient information for you to give a conclusion. So therefore, better to give the all 3 answers and say, provided if this is appropriate, this is the answer. If this is not appropriate, this is the answer, because of the information not very 100% available, accurate in the scenario. So in that kind of a situation, we have to give open answer. But if the informations are very clear, decisions can be made by yourself whether here the going concern appropriate or not. That is cannot be decided. You can see the other past papers sometime it's positively tells that the going concern assumption is appropriate or not. But here sometime it may not be given. Right. So therefore answer given, look at it that The auditor must evaluate the adequacy of management going concern assessment in accordance with the 570 revised standard. Unmodified opinion with an emphasis of, actually this is also wrong, students. So I told the examiner, Ms. C. Sri Lanka, to correct that also and send it to you all. Because this is not, because this script is done by CA. So I have not involved into the any thing with regard to the answer writing. So this has to be changed as the this has to be changed as material uncertainty with regard to the going concern paragraph. And if the auditor concludes that the going concern base is appropriate and disclosures are adequate, but the material uncertainty and emphasis of matter would refer to the not on the going concern. Actually, we don't say going concern, that is wrong. Qualified opinion if disclosures are inadequate, out the uncertainty. Adverse opinion if the finance statements are prepared on a going concern basis, but in the auditor's view, liquidation is probable and basis is inappropriate. What is the time? Exactly 12. See our time. Exactly 4 hours and coming into the next day. Right. So students, now how many marks you got? I just want to give some concluding points for your examination. So therefore, don't leave the meeting. So there are a few things which I want to tell you about 5 to 10 minutes time for the exam, because there are so many students. I'm happy to see that more than 75% of the students who join the session at 8 o'clock are still remaining. All right. So be happy yourself. Be happy yourself because you want to pass this exam. So there is no doubt that there is no reason as to why you should fail this exam, because you have that mindset, attitude, courage of somehow completing this particular game and coming out as a prestigious chartered accountant that you have shown today. That attitude you have shown today, right? I just made a request to you. Okay, I know that the students can't concentrate for 4 hours in live. Generally, 2 hours is the maximum concentration, 2.5 hours. But near to the examination, we don't have any other time, because I had an option to take another day, but I thought of completing everything today, because then you also are getting a complete picture in the one shot of the entire paper. Right? So that means that you are waiting for this 4 hours itself. You showed your commitment, your dedication, and what you really want to achieve. So therefore, be happy about yourself, because not only criticizing yourself always, so make your appreciation to you for yourself, because you have done something when you are achieved. So you have to appreciate you, because human mind is always get motivated with the appreciation. Right. So having said that, students, now your examination in another 2 weeks ahead. So now when you are studying, so you have to be focused the next 2 weeks time. You can't do many things, but you have to be focused. There are some highly examinable areas: assurance services, quality management, ethics, digital auditing. All right. So these 4 chapters, one-to-one wording has to be seen in the study text. If you have not studied, you have to see. All right. And take one shot last 5 past papers. One shot mean not the full paper. Assurance service mean open the all 5 questions in the table. You table in the table. Assurance services, all 5 questions keep on the table. Then look at one by one and see, try to understand what the examiner is trying to do in each and every examination. That will enhance lot in your examiner's expectation. You will understand the examiner's expectation. Code of ethics also like that. Last 5 papers keep in the table and look at on that. Right. So that is some of the things, one of the things that you have to do in terms of the focus studies during the next 2 weeks time. And second thing, in terms of audit procedures and the risk assessment, during the next week, 2 weeks time, at least 5 questions from the risk assessment and the 5 questions from the audit procedures, master cases must be done. That you don't have to look at the theory too much on that. But that is a core idea. The overall idea is more important. Right? So that has to be done, and at least five questions. And during the next 2 weeks time, now I know you don't have much time to write the full papers. At least 2 full papers. That's enough. Given the limited time, 2 full papers should be done. Keeping the time. You can go to the institute or you can do at your home itself, but keeping the time. It has to be done. Right? In the meantime, if you getting into any technical clarification is needed, you want any support from me, so you can reach to me at any time. You can reach to me at any time. Uh, so I'm available. So my mobile number also might be available with you, so you can always reach to me. Whatever the support that I can give, I will definitely give. Like this, so even any explanation individually what is needed for any subject matters, I'm always there, right? So that support can be given on there. And also, student, the next thing is next 2 weeks time. So don't try to concentrate on all the things and don't try to be perfect and don't get overload in the mind. And finally, nothing will happen. You decide how many hours you have during the next 2 weeks time. Plan some focus areas to be done during that time, and it should not disturb your mental confidence, and then your mind is clear to go to the examination, right? So that kind of things also should be done, right? Okay, so any other questions before I wind up? Any target areas for the exam? Yes, there are target areas, right? So for continuous 4 hours, so thank you for waiting, and so let's wind up the class now. Any questions coming in? Right. Okay, then. So let's meet up with another webinar on the mock paper. Not webinar for you all, no webinar for you all, because you all are going to face the exam in this November, this 29th, and you will definitely pass the exam. So no webinars for you all. Sometime when you come to the strategic level, so we can meet in the another subject in the new syllabus or all syllabus, start SL1 or something. We can meet again. Right. Okay. Thank you and good night. Good one.